Hello and welcome to WCBN Sports here on March 8th. My name is Jake Singer and I'm here with Zachary Linder, and we're here for some Michigan baseball at Ray Fisher Stadium for the home opener as the Wolverines take on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. We have a fun one on tap for you today. Michigan currently coming in today at 4-7. Oakland coming in at 2-8. And Zachary, how you doing today?
Doing well here, getting set for Wolverines' earliest home opener they've ever had. And all things considered, they have pretty good weather here. Currently 44 degrees on March 8th, not too bad. The softball tournament that the Wolverines were supposed to host this weekend completely got canceled because of upcoming snow, but it looks like the baseball team here is getting chilly but playable conditions.
Of course, and Michigan just played a 3-game series in Houston, Texas this past weekend, the Shriners Children's College Classic. They went 0-3 in that tournament. What was one thing that really stood out to you this weekend that really made things difficult for these Wolverines?
I mean, the bottom line, they got shut out twice, and then their pitching also just has not been good really this year. Obviously, you were there. You called 2 of the games, so you know better than I would. But just looking at the numbers, this Wolverines team has really struggled on both sides of the ball. I mean, you look the first game against TCU, they lost 6-0, just couldn't score. Connor O'Halloran pitched pretty well, 3 runs in 7 innings. Then you look Texas Tech, they scored that game, but lost 10-7 because, again, the starting pitching. Chase Allen gave up 6 runs in 2 innings. Last game against Louisville, lost 10-0 in 7 innings on the mercy rule. Jacob Denner allowed 8 runs, 4 earned in 5 innings. So this team has not been getting good starting pitching, and it also has not been hitting with any consistency. So really, there's a reason this team's 4-7. They got to turn both of those around. Now you look at the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, they're not really all that much better. Their team ERA this year is 9.40, which is even worse than the Wolverines, and their batting average is only 207. So this almost kind of feels like a stoppable force meeting a movable object. Something's got to give. Someone's got to win this game, and the Wolverines are hoping they can get their home opener in the win column.
Of course, well, you were completely right. Michigan really struggled pitching this past weekend, and the offense wasn't there either. In 2 of the 3 games, they got shut out, both to Louisville and to TCU. But there have been some really interesting names. This team is very different from last season. Tracy Smith comes in as the new coach. He brings a completely new coaching staff. And this team had a lot of turnaround. You're really seeing a lot of production out of Greg Pace Jr., the center fielder. He's a freshman. You're seeing a lot of production out of Mitch Voigt, the third baseman. He's actually a 2-way player. He plays third base, and he's a pitcher. And you're even seeing production from transfers. You have Gabe Sotris, who is the catcher from Michigan State. He's playing a lot now because Jimmy Obertop had surgery in October. And, of course, you're seeing a lot of production from Cody Jeffress, the shortstop from University of San Diego. So it's very early on in the season. This team's still trying to work out its kinks, but because they're so new, they're so young, and they're not used to playing one another, you're going to see those issues come about here early on.
Yeah, and of course, they've had a very difficult non-conference schedule to start. They've lost 5 straight games, but their last 4 games were all the ranked teams. Lost 9-5 to UCLA, ranked number 17, and then all 3 teams they played down in Houston, TCU ranked number 10, Texas Tech 24, and Louisville 14. So they've had they haven't had by any means like a soft non-conference schedule before getting into Big Ten play, which they'll open up March 24 through 26, hosting Penn State for 3 games here. It's been a rough schedule. And so they just haven't, as you mentioned, a lot of turnover with this team. They've really had no time to mesh. So it's not really that surprising what's happened so far. Hopefully, as time goes on, they're able to kind of develop chemistry and really see both sides of the ball improve.
Of course. Well, I'm going to bring you your lineups for today. For the Michigan Wolverines, they are the home team, so they will be in the field first. Batting first is Cody Jeffress. He's the shortstop, senior, transfer from University of San Diego. Batting second, Tito Flores. He'll be in left field today. He's also a senior. Ted Burton's in the 3-hole. He's playing second base today. He's batting .302 this season. Gabe Sotris, the catcher from Michigan State. He's a junior, batting .344 this season, leading the team. He'll be in the 4-hole. Joey Longo's the DH today. He'll be in the 5. Joey Velasquez rounds it out in the 6th. Jack Van Remortel, first base, been there all season long. He'll still be there, batting 7th, .320 this season. Mitch Voigt is in the 8-hole. They're playing third base for the Michigan Wolverines today. He's a freshman, batting .200. And finally, Greg Pace Jr. is in the 9-hole. He'll be in center field today, and he is batting .182. for the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. They will be batting first in this game. Gabe Lux starts it out for the Golden Grizzlies. He's actually leading the team with a .343 average. He's the only player on that team that is batting over 300. Number 2 in the lineup is Jared Miller. Jared Miller is going to be in DH today. He's batting 188 this season. Ian Cleary is in the 3-hole. He's playing right field today. Thomas Green in the cleanup spot, batting .250. He'll be at shortstop. Peter Jelinek will be playing second base today. He's batting .286. Luke Malmanger will be playing third base today. He's batting sixth. Apologize. Drew Collins batting 7th. He's playing left field. You have Brandon Heidel. He's batting 8th. He's at catcher. And finally, Reggie Bussey is in center field batting 9th. Your pitchers today, Bryce Konitzer for Oakland University and Kurt Barr for the Michigan Wolverines. Kurt Barr, 2 appearances this season, 1 start. He has a 0 ERA in 2.2 innings pitched. What's one player to look out for if you're the Michigan Wolverines?
I mean, I think are you talking about for the Wolverines or in the Oakland
Both
lineup?
teams.
I think for the Wolverines, the biggest impact player is Jack Van Remortel, who had a strong performance at the Shriners College Classic, going 3 for 5, double, 3 walks. And for Oakland, I think you got to go with Gabe Lux, just because you mentioned he's hitting .343.
Well, Gabe Lux just took the first pitch from Kurt Barr and drove it into left center field for a base hit. That will start things off for Oakland here early, as they have a man on first with no outs.
Yeah, and just as we were talking about him, coming in, strong average, 10 games, 9 starts, 35 at-bats, .343 average, .486 slugging, over 400 OPS at .410. He's a dangerous hitter, showed it right there with some opposite field hit to start.
Here's the pitch from Barr. That's going to be a strike in there. He's currently pitching to Jared Miller. Miller is the DH today for Oakland. He's currently batting .188 this season in 32 at-bats. Has 2 doubles, no home runs, 8 RBIs on the season. 0-1's the count to him. Here's the pitch. Ball low. Low and outside is the call by the umpire. Count is 1-1 right now to Jared Miller.
And I am wondering, Kurt Barr, 2 appearances. He only pitched 2 2/3 innings this year, so I am wondering what the strategy is as far as how long he's going to go.
That is a good point. Here's the pitch as it goes sky high into left field. Velasquez is under it, and he makes the catch for out number 1. Apologize, that is Tito Flores in left field today. Michigan in Houston had a lot of issues with the sun. The sun was really playing an issue for the Michigan outfielders. You saw drops by all 3 outfielders in that game. Most notably, Jake Marty, playing center field at the time, got hit in the head and gave up a triple because of that. Joey Velasquez lost 2 in the sun as well. Michigan really having issues with it. The sun is out today again, but is facing inward, so shouldn't be as much of an issue. Here's the pitch now to Ian Cleary.
Yeah, as you mentioned, sun straight out in center field. You can see the shadow from the batter's eye. There's no real shadow around home plate yet. Of course, these late afternoon games, you always have the sun moving as the game progresses, so we could see the dynamics change later on.
0-1's the count to Cleary. Outside, ball 1. 1-1's the count now.
And good block there by Sotris. Ball went a little to his right, but able to keep it in front of him, which is the key to preventing the runner from first from advancing.
Cleary is batting .231 this season for Oakland. He has 4 RBIs, 6 hits, 3 walks. Here's the pitch from Barr. 1-1's the count, 1 out. Cleary fouls one back as Gabe Lux tried to steal second, so he'll run back to first. The count is 1-2 now.
A little early hit and run action there from the Grizzlies, trying to get an early man in scoring position. Of course, unable to put the ball in play, so he goes back to first now with the 2-strike count.
1-2's the count now to Cleary. Here's the pitch from Barr. And Cleary just half swings, but he'll tip it, and it'll be another foul ball. 1-2 stays the count.
Yeah, Sotris just unable to hold on to that. If he would have held on, it would have been a foul tip strikeout on a check swing. Instead, new life for Cleary.
1-2 still the count now. Here's the pitch from Kurt Barr. And it's high. Ball 2. 2-2's the count now. 1 out here in the top of the first inning. Gabe Lux singled on the first pitch he saw to start the game off, so he's at first base. Following him, Miller Fly it out to left field of Tito Flores, and currently we're at 2-2 here with 1 out in the top of the first. Here's the pitch. Cleary skies one to Tito Flores in the corner just before the warning track, and Flores gets it in easily. 2 outs here at the top of the first inning for the Wolverines.
And good rebound there for Barr. Lux singled on the first pitch of the game. It gets back-to-back flyouts to left. 2 outs. Runner still at first base, and good chance to escape this inning with no damage.
Up next is Thomas Green in the cleanup spot for Oakland. He's been in .250 this season in 10 starts. Barr making nice work currently here in the top of the first inning. Here's the pitch. We have a base runner steal, and they call him out at second base. Sotris gets Lux for the 3rd out of the first inning, and Michigan escapes a little early trouble there as Kurt Barr maintains his 0 ERA.
Yeah, that was a good pitch to run on, or a good pitch to throw on, rather. Not a good pitch to run on. High fastball, which made it a lot easier for Sotris. Got a good throw off right on the runner. Really perfect execution all around by the Wolverines to nab Gabe Lux trying to steal second. Kurt Barr only faces 3 in the first inning.
Great work by Barr. Michigan, as you were saying, has had a lot of issues pitching-wise this year. You asked me a little bit earlier about maybe the strategy in starting Kurt Barr. Michigan just used their top 3 starters over the weekend, and using O'Halloran, Chase Allen, and Jacob Denner has been the 3-man this season. And with a midweek game, we saw this a lot last year with Eric Bakich at the helm. Michigan will really have to go with bullpen games, because when you're going to play a three-game weekend set every weekend with one midweek game, you don't have enough pitchers for that. And Michigan has even struggled to even find that 3rd starter. So the fact that they're using Jacob Denner right now as that 3rd starter, you leave Noah Renard in the bullpen as your long relief pitcher. We saw him the second day against Texas Tech when Chase Allen got taken out after the 2nd inning. But more importantly, on these Wednesday games, seeing Kurt Barr now here in his 2nd start might prove a little bit down the line of, is he going to be that guy they're going to go to consistently. Last season, they literally used every single pitcher to start that midweek game. So with Tracy Smith, the new manager, he's still trying to figure out who that guy he could use is as that 4th starter.
Yeah, worth noting, Wolverines are playing in the Mike Sanson Classic in Kennesaw, Georgia this weekend. They're going to have 4 games over 3 days. 2 against UAB, 2 against Kennesaw State. So the action just keeps coming for them. Then they go to Xavier next Wednesday. Then they come home, host Bradley for 3 games in their first weekend home series. But the schedule, they really never get any breaks until April, when they finally get a break from a midweek game. Otherwise, it's going to be at least 4 games every week. They're going 1 extra down in Kennesaw this week and playing 4 games instead of 3.
100%, and that's a great point right there. Michigan's going to then have to use 4 starters this weekend. You might even see one of those games, Michigan going into bullpen game once again, but these teams only have so many pitchers, and Michigan, who struggled even finding 3 pitchers all season long, obviously are going to have to run into that issue week by week and trying to figure out who those starters are, as we are underway here in the bottom of the first inning. 0-0 in the top of the first. 1 hit given up by Kurt Barr, but then he retired the next 2 and with a stolen base out. And here we start at the bottom of the first inning. Cody Jeffress fouls one back to start us off. Jeffress, the transfer from University of San Diego, played 4 years there at shortstop. Transferred over when Tracy Smith was hired, and he's been the everyday shortstop this season for the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, the offensive number is not quite where we'd want them, but of course at shortstop you need that defensive ability more than anything else.
Exactly, and Jeffress has been very solid defensively for the Michigan Wolverines this season as he fouls off the second pitch, 0-2 quickly to him. Michigan has historically had a very defensive-oriented shortstop, Riley Bertram, last 3 years for the Michigan Wolverines. He leaves, though, with Bakich to Clemson. Here's the pitch, high, ball 1. Michigan brings in Jeffress. They have a lot of experience now, at least with Jeffress. They're able to utilize that experience as he is a senior this season. So having a defensive-minded shortstop definitely can bode well for this team, and they can kind of, leverage a little bit there with the offensive deficiencies as he fouls off the next pitch. 1-2 still to count to him. He's currently batting .171 this season. He has no home runs, 8 RBIs. 3 walks. He's been struck out 9 times.
You just have 2 stolen bases, so a little bit of a running game early on. Definitely another trait you like to see from the leadoff hitter.
Exactly. Here's the pitch to Jeffress. Outside ball 2. Currently here in the bottom of the first inning. Michigan is facing up against Bryce Conitzer. He has a 4.50 ERA in 2 starts. 4 innings pitched, though. 2 earned runs, so despite the 2 starts, hasn't been able to go that long in those 2 starts.
Yeah, so we could potentially be looking at 2 starters going short here. But as you mentioned, Oakland's going to have to face the same thing Michigan has to face, which is these midweek games. You have a totally different rhythm in college than you do in pro ball, where you're just playing every day and you don't care what day of the week it is.
Exactly. Here's the pitch from Conitzer. Fouled once again, so Sotras really fighting here. 3 foul balls in this one at bat. 2-2 still to count to him. No outs here in the bottom of the first inning.
Yeah, it looks like he's just not getting a little behind the fastball, fouling all of them over to the left side the other way. Of course, he still has to be ready to sit back if he gets an off-speed pitch.
Here's a pitch to Sotras. Fouls another one back. So Sotras working the count here. 8 pitches to this point in the first at-bat of the bottom of the first inning.
Yeah, definitely what you want to see early on, really working that pitch count up with a starter. Very good at bat to lead off from Jeffress.
Here's the pitch to Jeffress. And he fouls another one back, so Jeffress really working the pitcher here, making Conitzer work really hard early, and especially that we said he's only in 2 starts, thrown 4 total innings pitched, working up his pitch count early on. Could really see him leaving early on in this contest.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely would play to the Wolverines' advantage. Maybe not as much when it's not a full series, but still, they definitely like to knock the starter out as early as they can.
Here's the pitch from Conitzer. And Jeffress skies one. The catcher's under it. He's backtracking, and he makes the catch. Nice work there by Heidel, the catcher for Oakland, looking up into the sun. Had a backtrack just a little bit. Was able to make the catch of something actually that Texas Tech couldn't do. They gave Jack Van Mortal a double this past weekend in Houston. So nice work defensively there by Oakland. And we're at 1 out here in the bottom of the first inning. Tito Flores comes up to the plate. He's batting 186 this season, definitely not where he expected to be at this point of the season. He has no home runs on 3 RBIs, 8 hits, 6 walks, 9 strikeouts. Here's the pitch to him. Just outside, ball 1 to Flores.
Yeah, looking at the Heidel catch, that is really, you talked about how the outfielders, at least right now, aren't going to have to face the sun too much. That's exactly where the sun is. He has to backtrack into fair territory, right into the sun, and he was able to make that catch.
Flores skies one to right field, and he makes the catch. Ian Cleary under it, so that'll quickly bring it 2 outs here in the bottom of the first inning with Ted Burton coming up to the plate.
Yeah, and that's the rebound Conitzer wanted. Of course, got the out to Jeffress, but took a lot of pitches. Only 2 pitches to Flores as he looks to get his pitch count under control, as we've been talking about with the limited innings this season.
Burton, one of the top batters on this team as he fouls the first one back. He's batting .302 this season, 11 starts. He's 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 6 RBIs. He's looking .488 this season, too. But one of the issues that Burton has faced with, that he's faced with his whole career, is he's 15 strikeouts as Burton fouls the second one back over and into the parking lot. That might hit a car. 0-2's the count to him.
Yeah, Burton, obviously, you look at the numbers so far, and they all look pretty good. But, of course, the strikeouts is one thing he definitely wants to get down, because that's really the big thing holding his average back from being even higher.
Burton grounds it to the shortstop. And he gets it to first base in time for out number 3. And a 1-2-3 inning there for Bryce Conitzer as we are knotted 0-0 going into the top of the second inning.
Well, and as I said at the top of the broadcast, something had to give, and that both these teams have had struggles on both sides of the ball. So far, the pitching has looked solid through the first inning. Oakland got the leadoff hit with Gabe Lux in the first pitch, but then Barrow still only faced 3 batters. Wolverines went down in order. Jeffress put up a good at-bat, forcing Conitzer to throw, I believe, 9 pitches, but still not able to get a base runner on. So far, pitchers have controlled through an inning.
Exactly that, and it's interesting to see that Kurt Barr is still out there for the Wolverines, so despite only throwing 2 2/3 innings this entire season, he will come out for a second inning, and Michigan's offensive struggles continue. Tito Flores only batting 186 this season, pops out in 2 pitches and even Ted Burton, who is batting over 300, skies one to left field, to right field, I should say. So, this Michigan team is facing Oakland, a team that they really should beat pretty handily in this game. We're expecting them to beat them pretty handily in this game, and I know it's only been one inning, but the fact that they came off of two of the 3 games this past weekend getting shut out, you'd really like to see some early scoring on by the Wolverines to kind of get out of that offensive slump.
Yeah, they did. Wolverines hold the series history against Oakland. They're 29-5, but they did lose 14-7 last year. So you almost have to start wondering. I mean, Kurt Barr looks good in the first inning, but we're talking about we don't know how long he's going to go. There is some concern. Can they get the offense going enough to prevent a loss in what really should be, as you mentioned, a get-right game for them before heading down to Georgia this weekend?
Michigan just facing 3 ranked teams this past weekend. They've had actually the 25th hardest schedule to this point, so they played a lot of really good teams. Now they're in a little bit of a break, being able to play Oakland today and use Kennesaw State and UAB this weekend, so getting these wins would be massive. As the first pitch from Kurt Barr here in the top of the second inning is a strike. Strike 1. Thomas Green's up at bat now. He's batting .250 this season for Oakland.
And Green, of course, had been up in the top of the first, but the caught stealing of Gabe Luck sends him back up to start the second.
Green check swings on a wild outside pitch, and they say he went around, so 0-2's the count to him early on here in the top of the second inning.
Yeah, now he's a little unsettled. Wonder if Barr's going to expand the zone even more, try to strike him out on 3 pitches here after chasing a very ugly pitch.
Here's the pitch from Kurt Barr to Green. And Green swings at a ball in the dirt. Sotras throws it on to Vandermortel at first, and we have a strikeout here at the top of the second inning. Nice work there by Kurt Barr to get him out in 3 pitches.
Yeah, that's what he said. I think once I don't always advocate for throwing chase pitches if you get a guy like taking 2 strikes, but when he chases a pitch well out of the zone on 0-1, I think you just got to go further on 0-2. Work to perfection there.
First pitch to Jelinek is a strike. 1 out here, 0-1's the count.
Yeah, Jelinek's second on the team in the lineup with his .286 average in 9 games this year.
Ball 1 outside. 1-1's the count to Jelinek. Jelinek batting .286 this season. He has 4 RBIs, 8 hits, 2 doubles, 1 stolen base. Outside, ball 2.
So definitely better discipline so far from Jelinek, getting ahead in the count, not chasing these pitches. It's going to make Barr's life more difficult than Green had made it to lead off the inning.
Here's the pitch to Jelinek, 2-1 the count. Any check swings himself, goes around. Strike 2.
So Barr kind of mixing up the pitches more and really getting some deception that's generating swings and misses. Definitely something that'll bode well for him. Again, we don't know how long he'll be in the game, but there's no activity in the Wolverines bullpen right now.
They're going to look for Barr to keep going as Barr, strike 3's the call inside corner. So Kurt Barr comes out here at the top of the second inning, gets 2 quick strikeouts as we have 2 outs in the top of the second.
Yeah, and they're just frozen on a pitch and caught the inside corner and unable to take the bat off his shoulder. Maybe Jelinek a little hesitant after chasing a pitch. Some mind games going on, but back-to-back strikeouts to start the second, and Barr is in cruise control right now.
Exactly. That Luke Malmanger up now. Strike 1, top of the corner of the strike zone. Malmanger has a 167 average this season. He's no home runs, 4 RBIs. 1 double. Here's the pitch to Malmanger. 0-1's the count. And he catches the outside corner once again. 0-2's the count. So Kurt Barr really working quickly against the Oakland Golden Grizzlies here in the top of the second inning.
Yeah, I don't know if Malmanger liked that call, but Kurt Barr is getting calls right now, and he's taking advantage of it.
Here's the pitch from Barr. High and outside. Try to go to the same spot 3 times in a row. Just missed it, though. 1-2's the count to Malmanger.
Yeah, I think just elevated a little too much there. Forced Sotras to jump up to catch it. So obviously too high to get the call there.
1-2's the count to Malmanger. 2 outs here in the top of the second inning. Here's the pitch from Kurt Barr. And Malmanger gets jammed. Throw on from shortstop, and he calls it safe. Vander Mortal's off the bag. Not a great throw there by Cody Jeffress as he was off balance going to his right. So Malmanger will make it on. We'll have to see if they call that a hit or an error. I believe they'll call that a hit as he was close to the first base when Vander Mortal came off the bag. So Kurt Barr was close having a 1-2-3 inning, but instead Malmanger gets on an infield single. And next up, we have Drew Collins, the left fielder. Drew Collins is having a pretty poor performance so far. He's batting .077 to this point. Here's the pitch to Collins. 2 inside, ball 1.
Yeah, going back to that infield single from Malmanger, I think the only player who had a chance was Mitch Voigt. Jeffress going to his right away from first base. He just didn't have the angle, but Voigt couldn't get there. Then Jeffress had to throw over Voigt, who had kind of crouched down. So he just had no angle to make that throw. So I think it definitely was the right call to give him a hit. And as you mentioned, Malmanger was practically at the base when the throw arrived. So just a very difficult play there. If Voigt had managed to field the ball, he would have had a chance to make the play. Jeffress just no angle to get him.
Jordan Banfield, the head coach of Oakland, came out to talk to the umpire for just a second. We don't exactly know what about. Nonetheless, we resume play here. 1-0 is the count, 2 outs. As Collins skies one foul, 1-1's the count now to him.
Yeah, and Collins, of course, coming in, only 1 hit in 13 at-bats, so no real production in limited opportunities this year.
Exactly right. Kurt Barr, 1-1's the count to him. High and outside, ball 2, so Barr, 2-1 the count to Drew Collins. And Barr has terrific command for the first 3 batters of this inning. See if he can continue that as he's trying to get Drew Collins out. Collins has 1 hit on the entire season. Here's the pitch to him. As he skies one to left field, Tito Flores is trying to get to it, and it goes foul and into the Michigan bullpen. So 2-2's the count, and everyone runs back to their positions.
Yeah, Barr's definitely worked the quadrants very well. Not everything's getting into zone, but he's hitting corners well, and most importantly, he's not missing over the middle. When he's missing, it's out of the zone, and that's how you avoid major damage.
Exactly right. Michigan going with the bullpen game today. Kurt Barr is mainly a relief pitcher for this team. He does have 2. This is his second start on the season and 3 appearances, though, as he might be a midweek starter for the Wolverines. 2-2's the count, 2 outs. Here's the pitch from Barr. Tried to go for the curveball, but could not get enough rotation on as it stays high. 3-2's the count.
Yeah, so now runner will be going, which potentially gives the Grizzlies a good opportunity. As we'll see, Vander Mortal at first play behind the bag. He will not hold on Malmanger. So Malmanger should get a good lead and get a solid head start.
Here's the pitch from Barr. You're correct, as Malmanger does run, and Collins skies it foul behind our heads and out of play over the netting.
So Collins making Barr work a little more here. See one guy just walking around in the Michigan bullpen. No one throwing yet. So wondering, is Tracy Smith looking at bringing Barr out for a 3rd inning?
Collins sends it into the right center gap as Velasquez will get it off the wall. Drew Collins rounding for 3rd, and he'll get in there safely. Ball goes past 3rd base, so Drew Collins gets an RBI triple here in the top of the 2nd inning. And they're actually going to say it went out of play, so they're going to give Drew Collins home. Drew Collins inside the park home run. And just like that, Oakland takes an early 2-0 lead.
Well, it'll be officially a triple and an error, allowing him to score, but just missed the pitch, and pitch called too much of the plate, and Collins just all over getting into the gap. I thought it was only going to be a double, but managed to get to 3rd, and then the throw just in the dirt and not handled at the base, just slowly trickled out of play. Not good for the Wolverines as they now trail 2-0 here in the 2nd.
Kurt Barr had the 3rd out of the inning in his hands when Jeffress just threw a little too wide of Vander Mortal at first base, as the next batter, Heidel, drives it to Tito Flores as he makes the catch to end the inning. Oakland scores 2 on 2 hits in the top of the 2nd, as I was just saying. Kurt Barr had 2 quick outs, 2 quick strikeouts. 3rd man comes up, Malmanger, and he forces a ground ball to Cody Jeffress at shortstop. Jeffress' throw is a little too wide to Van Mortal. Malminger is then able to get an early jump start on the 3-2 count to Drew Collins, and Collins drives one into the right center gap. Velasquez can't get to it, and the throw is poorly thrown in, and he's able to run all the way home for a 2-0 lead as Oakland has 3 hits today. Michigan, 1 error on the day as well. So right when Michigan seemed they had a lot of control of this game.
Yeah, and I mean, you look, Barr was 1 strike away from having a clean inning, is unable to get the out, and that's just bad luck. Difficult play by Jeffress, but then Collins just whacked that ball into the right center gap, easily scoring 1 run, and then just the throw by Ted Burton. I mean, it was in the dirt, so he's charged with the error, but I still think that really is a ball it's coming in slowly enough. I think you got to be able to, if you're Mitch Voigt at third, you got to be able to block that ball and prevent it from rolling into the dugout. And now with the scoring struggles the Wolverines have been having, getting shut out 2 of the 3 games down in Houston, they're all of a sudden really is concerned here that they could potentially be on their way to losing this game, which would drop them to 4-8 in a very suboptimal start to the season.
Exactly. Michigan has dropped their last 5 straight games, most recently losing all 3 in Houston, Texas, the Children's Shriners College Classic this past weekend. They faced 3 ranked opponents, now coming home for their first home game of the season. You'd think Michigan had a little bit extra juice in them, but early on here, they are losing 2-0 as Gabe Sotras comes to the plate. The transfer from Michigan State, he's catching today. He's batting .344 this season, leading the entire team as Sotras grounds one to shortstop with the first pitch he sees for out number 1.
So another quick out. We saw Jeffress put together a good at-bat, but just nothing going for the Wolverines since, and now their first 4 batters of the game have been retired.
Sotras 0 for 5 in his last 5 at-bats. He came into the Shriners College Classic batting over the 400s, and now he slowly is going down in batting average. Joey Longo steps in now. Longo's the DH today for the Wolverines. He's batting .250 this season. As Longo check swing fouls, the first pitch he sees, 0-1 the count to him. 1 out here in the bottom of the 2nd inning.
Yeah, Wolverines swinging early, though. Check swing there. Didn't look like the bat went around enough for it to be a swing. Of course, didn't matter because he fouled it off. But Wolverines now hacking the 3rd straight pitch.
Longo lines one, though, past the first baseman into right field for a base hit. So Joey Longo gets to pass Gabe Lux for Michigan's first hit of the contest. Joey Velasquez now comes to the plate. 1 out, 1 man on. Velasquez has a .080 batting average this season, 2 hits, 3 RBIs. Of course, Velasquez is a 2-way player for the Wolverines. He's also on the Michigan football team. And he brought a lot of power to the Michigan Wolverine offense last season, especially later in the season in the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments, as he sees a strike go right by him, right in the middle, strike number 1 to him.
Yeah, Longo, they're just nice. Not hit particularly hard, but just line drive the other way going with the pitch gets on. Now Wolverines will see if they can respond to the Grizzlies' 2 runs in the top half of the inning. Velasquez
sees a ball outside, so 1-1 the count to him here in the bottom of the 2nd inning. If you're just tuning in, Oakland had an RBI triple in the top of the 2nd with an error as well inside the Parker as Velasquez lines one to left field for the catch. Longo runs back to first base. Michigan was 1 strike away from having a perfect inning in the top of the 2nd. Just some things don't go your way, and Oakland was able to score 2 on the Wolverines of a team that you just said, Zach. Michigan has really struggled offensively this entire season. Last season, actually, the issues weren't necessarily about the offense, but it was about the pitching and the defense, and Michigan was able to score 15 runs a game. They just might have been outscored in those games. But this season, you're seeing this team really struggling as Jack Van Remortel comes to the plate here, 2 outs with Longo at first. Curveball too high, ball 1.
Yeah, and solid contact there by Velasquez, hitting a line drive the other way, just right at the left fielder. And now 2 outs here. Wolverines only have the 1 base runner so far this game, just looking to get some sort of spark.
Here's the pitch to Van Remortel. Low, ball 2. Bryce Konitzer so far has only given up 1 hit. Came into the game with a 4.50 ERA in 2 starts, but only had pitched 4 innings. Currently in the 2nd inning of this contest. Vander Mortel fouls one off. 2-1's the count to him. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 2nd.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we don't really know how long either starter is going to go, but the Wolverines have no one up in their bullpen. So Barr will come out for the 3rd, I think. It's more difficult from the press box to see the Grizzlies bullpen. From what I can see of it, I don't see anyone up.
There is no one up currently in the Grizzlies bullpen. That is correct. Here's the pitch of Vander Mortel. Hit the dirt. Longo gets caught, though, at first base for the 3rd out of the inning. Longo did not see where the ball went as it trickled away from the catcher, Heidel of Oakland, and Heidel quickly jumped up, threw down to first, and Lux put the tag on as Longo quickly ends the inning for the Wolverines. They do not score here in the bottom of the 2nd.
Yeah, and that is exactly what the Wolverines can't have. You just as a runner, obviously it's difficult at times, but you got to just wait until you see where the ball is. And if you're unable to advance because you have no angle of the ball, you can live with that. But he just sees the ball in the dirt, and it's almost like his instinct was to run. Then he realized there was no way he was going to get there, but it was just too late at that point. So basically gifts the 3rd out to the Golden Grizzlies, and now Wolverines trailing after 2, and Konitzer's faced the minimum through the first 2 innings.
So Michigan's struggles continue, just really poor play. We saw this past weekend with Jack Vander Mortel had a lot of base running issues. He got tagged out. Ted Burton tried to steal home when Michigan was having a 2-out rally also in Houston. He got tagged out to the end of the inning, and now when Michigan finally got their first base runner on, Joey Longo gets tagged out and just not even playable balls. And it's really a concern for this team that's really not disciplined up to this point in the season.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, last year you looked more pitching defense as the issues, and then it looks like is turning around to this year, they've, rather than solving issues, just created more issues, as now there's concern on the offensive side of the ball, and it almost feels like the game is over when they're down 2-0, just because of the offensive issues they've had all year. It's just so difficult we know they're capable of coming back, but it's just so difficult to envision it.
Exactly, as Reggie Bussey comes to the plate now for Oakland. Starting here in the top of the 3rd inning, Bussey's batting 182 this season with 2 hits. Kurt Barr stays in the game for the Wolverines. Here's the pitch. Strike number 1 right to the middle to Bussey.
Yeah, Wolverines really need a bounce-back inning from Barr. Gave up 2 runs, 1 earned in that 2nd inning, but just has to reset here and get through this inning quickly.
Bussey just grounds it to Barr as Barr flips it to Vander Mortel at first base for out number 1. Nice work there by Barr to make it easier for himself to get the first out at the top of the 3rd inning.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Wolverines want to see. Just 2-pitch, quick first out. Now, of course, we saw him get 2 quick outs and then 2 strikes on top of that to start the 2nd inning, and then things really went sideways. So, of course, it doesn't by any means mean he'll have a clean inning, but definitely gives some hope of a bounce back.
Barr hits Lux, though, with the first pitch that he sees. So Lux, 2 at-bats, gets on base both times. First time a single. Second time now gets hit by the pitch. So we'll have 1 man on with 1 out here in the top of the 3rd inning. Coming up to the plate now is Jared Miller.
Yeah, and I think we've seen Barr be pretty comfortable throwing breaking balls into left-handers, working that inside corner, but there it looked like he just held onto it too long, yanked it across his body, and plunked Lux.
Here's the pitch from Barr. Little high. Ball 1 to him. Jared Miller currently is 0 for 1 today. It's a 182 average currently. As Barr has 1 out here in the top of the 3rd inning with Lux on first base for Oakland. Here's the pitch. Miller just bounced it to Sotris at the catcher position. Sotris fires it to first base for the out. Vander Mortel handles it cleanly, so 2 outs now, and Lux moves to second base.
Yeah, and there just a soft grounder, so Barr's didn't do some weak contact on the ground here in the 3rd. Did place that 1 runner on with the hit by pitch, and Lux now advances to second, so it will be the first runner in scoring position opportunity for Oakland in this game, as they scored 2 runs on the Little League homer without ever having a man in scoring possession.
Cleary's up now as he fouls the first one back. Ian Cleary is currently 0 for 1 today. Batting .222 as Barr is faced with a runner in scoring position, as you just said, with 2 outs here in the top of the third inning. And if you're Barr, you probably would have to just focus on the batter in this position.
Yeah, you can't worry about the runner at second here.
As he's currently doing. Here's the pitch. Cleary sends it to center field. It goes over Greg Pace Jr.'s head as it bounces off the wall. That will score 1, and Cleary moves to second base for a double. And just like that, Oakland adds a 3rd run to their tally, and Kurt Barr's 2-out struggles continue.
Yeah, that'll be RBI number 5 on the season for Cleary. As you commented, Barr looking back to second, I mean, honestly, with 2 outs, if he steals third, whatever. You just need to get the batter out and maybe just mind games going on. And, of course, it's worth noting we don't see one here, but there is a pitch clock behind home plate. Pitchers have 20 seconds, runners on or not, to pitch. And so looking back at the runner and then trying to pitch, it's just too much of a distraction.
Completely, as Barr now throws a high ball for ball number 1 to Thomas Green, the shortstop for Oakland. So Cleary sitting on second base now, 2 outs with Green up. As Green skies one now, we'll see which Michigan player decides to take it. Greg Pace Jr. decides to, and he makes the catch for out number 3 in center field. So Oakland tallies another run on 1 hit as they currently lead the Wolverines 3-0 as we enter the bottom of the 3rd inning.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, just the 2-out struggles for Barr, the second inning was 1 strike away from a clean inning and then gave up an infield single and everything spiraled out of control. And then hits gave Lux, but has 2 weak groundouts. And then with 2 outs, Cleary just smacks a ball out to center field. And both of those RBI extra base hits, they were not cheap shots. They were hard hits that went back to the wall. So he's, for much of the game, been able to locate, but just in big situations, leaving pitches over too much of the plate, and he's paying for them.
Exactly. You mentioned a little earlier about the pitch clock. Baseball has really been evolving recently, and there's been a lot of new rules that we've seen, and there's been the new pitch clock, so each pitcher has 20 seconds to make the pitch. I'm assuming there's also a clock for the batter as well. We even saw in Houston this past weekend the pickoff rule being instituted. Chase Allen tried to pick off the man at first base one too many times. They gave the free base to the runner at first base, so they're really making concerted effort trying to make these games go faster. And last season, Michigan games would be averaging 3.5 hours, and to this point so far, they've been averaging 2.5 hours, so it's really been great for baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've definitely seen the rules in college baseball, from what I understand, work a little differently than in professional baseball. But a lot of the same concepts. I believe in college the batter has to be set by 5 seconds, unlike we're professional, it's 8 seconds. The only thing weird to me is that the only clock is behind on the backstop, which means the batter really doesn't have a clock to look at.
They do not, and you're right. And we haven't had to see it yet to this point. At least I haven't personally seen a batter getting faulted for not being set in time, but you're completely right that we can only see the players can only see the pitch clock. As the first pitch of Vander Morrow goes right by him, strike number 1. Conitzer stays in the game. He's currently clean through 2 innings. As we enter the bottom of the 3rd inning here in Ray Fisher Stadium, it's the home opener for the Wolverines. Second pitch of Vander Morrow gets the inside corner, strike number 2.
That pitch looked a little inside and maybe even low, but he gets the call and gets ahead here to the leadoff batter in the 3rd.
Vander Morrow stands in, high and inside. Ball number 1 to him. 1-2's the count here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. He's the leadoff batter. No outs currently with Bryce Conitzer on the mound. Wolverines are in their white uniforms today. Oakland's in their grays. Here's the pitch to Vander Morrow in the dirt. Ball number 2.
Yeah, Vander Morrow, one of the few Wolverines hitters who have produced up to this point. No home runs, but he has a .320 average and an .814 OPS. So he's had an impact on offense.
Vander Morrow skies one foul. 2-2 to the count. And it's interesting that Vander Morrow has really been contributing offensively to this team last season. He actually got benched halfway through the season at first base for Jake Marty because of his offensive struggles. So it's really great to see the transfer 1 year ago really contributing a lot to the offense to this point for the Wolverines. Here's the pitch of Vander Mortal, 2-2 the count as Vander Mortal looks at it go by him. Ball number 3, though, just a little too low. 3-2 is the count from Bryce Conitzer.
Yeah, good comeback for Vander Mortal. Fell behind 0-2 and now works the count back to full. Chance to get on base.
Vander Mortal sends another one foul.
Yeah, so Vander Mortal once again working. We saw Jeffress really force Conitzer to throw a lot of pitches to start the first inning. Now Vander Mortal's doing that here in the third. He had come up in the bottom of the second, but then Longo got picked off, so he's back up here.
As Vander Mortal draws a walk, ball 4 to him as it goes a little high, and Vander Mortal's on base here to the bottom of the third inning with a leadoff base runner for the Wolverines.
And I think Michigan has to score here in this inning. They're down 3-0. They get the leadoff man on for the first time today. I think if they just have some sort of momentum shift, they got to at least get one run across, if not more, in this inning, just to feel like they're able to do something on offense that can maybe lead to bigger things as the game moves along, and for that matter, even the season.
Mitch Voigt stands in, the freshman. He's a two-way player. Plays third base, and he pitches in third base recently, but he's also had 2 pitching appearances. We might see him maybe in this game or maybe this weekend even. He's batting .200 this season. Highly touted prospect out of Wisconsin. Here's the pitch to him as Voigt swings through a fastball, strike number 1.
And it is worth noting there are not any shift restrictions in college baseball as there are in professional baseball. So there is an overshift now, 3 infielders on the left side here to the right-handed hitting Voigt.
It's a great point. If Voigt just knocks one to the second base area, he'll be on easily as he fouls the second one off. Strike number 2 to him. There are 3 infielders to the left of our vantage point of the infield, and that is a really interesting point that in MLB baseball now we don't see any shifts, but they have not made the rule change in college just yet. 0-2 to Voigt. Here's a pitch from Conitzer. Into the dirt. Ball number 1. Vander Mortal runs back to first in a hurry. As I said a little earlier, he got caught in a base malfunction this past weekend. He had an infield double, and they got thrown out at third base, trying to attempt to steal on a ball into the dirt as Voigt sees a ball go a little too high. 2-2 the count to him.
Yeah, so Conitzer once again struggling to close out at bats. It's also worth noting with this shift, especially with the double play situation, you always get this weird situation. If like a ball is hit to Jelinek, he's got no one to throw to. So you increase the chance of getting 1 out, but I think decrease the chance of getting 2.
Well, Voigt goes down on strikes, so it is all moot now as he swings through a ball a little high and outside for strike number 3. 1 now here in the bottom of the third inning. Vander Mortal stays at first, and Greg Pace Jr., the center fielder, he's also a freshman, stands in. Greg Pace Jr. won Big Ten Freshman of the Week honors a week ago. He had back-to-back games with a triple and also had a 3-run home run. He had a little bit of a slump in the Shriners Children's College Classic, did not manage to get a hit, so he's looking for his first hit in 4 games. Here's the pitch to Pace. Inside, strike number 1.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, youth at the bottom of the Wolverines lineup. Their last 2 hitters, Voigt and Pace, are both freshmen, as is Kurt Barr. But then you've mentioned a lot of change on this team as they've also used the transfer portal a lot, especially with the coaching change.
As ball number 1 to Greg Pace Jr. That's really interesting with Tracy Smith coming in. His players essentially are the transfers, and you see those players at the top of the lineup. Then, of course, Michigan's stand-ins with Ted Burton, Tito Flores, the guys who have been here for a long time. And then the freshmen at the bottom of the lineup really showing who he believes are his premier players and which players he wants to see more out of as we continue going on through the season. As I also will tell you all to keep in mind, these freshmen are not Tracy Smith's recruits. Those are still Baxter's recruits that decided to stay with Michigan. So the only players Tracy Smith brought in are those transfers currently, as he got brought in a little later on in the cycle. Greg Pace Jr. fouls another one back. 2-2 the count now to him.
Yeah, and of course, very much not ideal for Michigan with Clemson prying away Eric Backage, forcing the Wolverines to kind of scramble and kind of have, as you mentioned, this patchwork of almost 3 different sets of players.
Pace goes down on strikes, so back-to-back strikeouts to the freshman as Voigt and Pace go back to the dugout. 2 outs here in the bottom of the third inning with Jack Van Mortal staying at first base. Cody Jeffress, the leadoff man, comes back up to bat.
Yeah, Jeffress put together a good at-bat in the first inning. Didn't end up getting on. I believe he forced Conitzer to throw 9 pitches, which to start the game, that can have an impact.
As Jeffress fouls the first one back, which he did a lot in that first at-bat to Conitzer.
Yeah, seems maybe having a little trouble either getting under pitches and then also not getting out in front of them enough.
Ball number 1 to him now, so 1-1 the count to Cody Jeffress. We have 2 outs here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. With Jack Van Mortal standing on first, he drew a walk. Here's the pitch to Jeffress, the transfer from University of San Diego. Little high, ball number 2 to him.
Yeah, of course, Van Mortal drew that leadoff walk. I said the Wolverines needed to score this inning, and he's got nowhere since, as the last 2 Wolverines hitters have both been punched out. So, not ideal on the offensive side for Michigan.
Jeffress fouls one, 2-2 the count now. As he had a little bit of a golf swing at that one, looked a little awkward swinging through that pitch. Connors is still perfect. He's only allowed 1 hit through 2 2/3 innings. It is 2-2 count with 2 outs. Here's the pitch, and right down the middle, strike 3 to Jeffress. So Bryce Conitzer through 3 innings has only allowed 1 hit, no runs, and the Wolverines strained another runner as they still trail Oakland 3-0 as we enter the top of the 4th inning.
Yeah, this one is honestly just really difficult to envision the Wolverines mounting much of a threat throughout the game on offense. They're down 3-0 now. You know, they got Joe Longo got the 1-out single in the first, and then he gets picked off. And then you have Jack Van Mortal draw a leadoff walk, thinking maybe that could lead to something, especially getting that leadoff guy on. Down 3-0, feel like they need a spark. Instead, the side gets struck out. So, I mean, we have Kurt Barr back on for the 4th inning, and he's kind of struggled a bit. 3 runs, 2 earned in 3 innings, all runs scoring with 2 outs. But what he does and what the bullpen does after him really just doesn't matter if the Wolverines can't score. Shut out 2 of their last 3 games, and nothing different happening now.
Exactly, and a lot of the journalism, a lot of the media, a lot of the fans even could excuse Michigan from getting shut out in 2 of the last 3 games due to the amount of competition they were playing. They played 3 ranked teams in TCU, Texas Tech, and Louisville, but playing in their first home game this season against Oakland, being shut out still through the first 3 innings and giving up 3 runs in that same time frame is really concerning for the Wolverines. As we said last season, the struggles weren't actually on the offensive side. They were actually on the defensive side of the ball. The games they would lose would be because they would give up just too many runs and make too many mental errors in the field. But the reason why they were even able to make it to the NCAA tournament is because they were able to score more runs than their opponents later on in the season, especially in the Big Ten tournament. They really showed their offensive power, but losing a lot of players from last season's team. You lose Joe Stewart to the MLB. You lose recruits. You lose transfers. You just lose players. Riley Bertram, too. You lose a lot of your offensive power, and now we're seeing this Michigan offense really struggle as Burt throws a strike past Jelinek for strike number 1. Nice breaking ball there. The team's just very young, and they're very new. And as I said, part of it is just working out how they work together as a team, but also part of it is just someone needs to step up in this lineup. As Barr throws one in the dirt, 1-1 the count now to him.
You know, I feel like baseball isn't as much. I mean, obviously, like, chemistry matters, but I feel like it's a little less so than a sport like football or basketball or hockey. So it's really just looking for, as you mentioned, the individual guys to step up more than they have.
As Barr throws ball high, 2-1 the count now to Jelinek. Jelenek's 0 for 1 currently in this contest. He's batting .276 this season. Here's the pitch from Kurt Barr. Jelinek swings through that one. Strike number 2 to him, 2-2 the count.
Yeah, it gets back even to the count. Has a couple swinging strikes here this at bat. Barr looking maybe for a leadoff strikeout, but we've seen him get outs early in innings and then struggle with 2 outs.
As he strikes out Jelinek, 3 breaking balls to get Jelinek swinging. So nice strikeout to start the top of the 4th for Kurt Barr, but you're completely right. Barr in the last 3 innings has been able to get outs pretty quickly get themselves to 2 outs, and all 3 runs that Oakland has scored have been with 2 outs. So we'll see how it goes as Malmanger comes up now for Oakland. High and outside, ball number 1 to him. Malmanger is 1 for 1 in this contest. He scored the first run for Oakland on the triple by Collins. Malmanger grounds one to second baseman. Burton's on his back as he throws to first base, and Malmanger is able to make it to first. So back-to-back infield singles for Malmanger now. Really tough play there by Burton at second base. Sprawling out, going to his right. Had to get up on his back and throw it down to Vandermortel, and just couldn't have enough momentum there to get that ball to first base before Malmanger got there.
Yeah, like the last infield single, blasted that ball up the middle. Great range by Burton just to get there. But like the one that was hit to Jeffress, Burton's diving to his right, going away from first base. He's on his back as he throws, and just his momentum's taking him away. Can't get enough on the throw.
Drew Collins steps in now. Collins had his second hit of the entire season being a triple, scoring Malmanger, and then he subsequently scored on an error. So Collins stands in as he pulls the first one too early on that one. 0-1 to count to him with 1 out. Malmanger is standing at first base, and Kurt Barr throws back to Malmanger, keeping him close by. Kurt Barr is his second start in 3 appearances. He's typically a relief pitcher, but he's now pitched in back-to-back midweek games. Michigan has a lot of midweek games this season. They're going to run into the situation as Collins check swings. They say he did not go, though. 2-1 the count to him.
Yeah, and he is giving the Wolverines good length. He's only pitched 2 2/3 innings this season, and now he's pitched 3 1/3 here in this game. So he's getting them some length, but unfortunately the 3 runs he's given up might be too much for them to overcome.
Here's a pitch from Barr. Malmanger takes a big lead as Barr hits the high and outside corner. So 1-2 the count now to Collins. Malmanger, though, decides to stay at first. And Barr really just needs to focus on getting Collins out. Collins had a lot of damage done the previous time he came up to bat in the second inning. So he's going to focus on him. Here's the pitch from Barr. Outside, ball 2. Count is even at 2-2 now.
Yeah, Barr with 3 strikeouts so far this game, looking for a 4th. But they're just probably trying to drop that curveball down in the dirt or below the zone, but instead just because it loses it off the hand, goes out wide, and no real temptation for Collins to swing.
Here's the pitch from Barr. As that hits the dirt, Malmanger decides to stay at first, though, as now we have a full count, 3-2 the count now to Collins with 1 out in the top of the 4th inning.
Yeah, and on a full count, I mean, we'll see if Malmanger runs over at first with 1 out. But now Barr's going to have to attack. He's thrown a couple pitches well out of the zone, and you do not want to walk Collins here and put 2 on with 1 out, so he's going to have to challenge him. Obviously, you don't want to groove one either because we saw Collins hit an RBI triple his last time up.
In this exact position, I might add, 3-2 count, that time with 2 outs, this time with 1 out. Nonetheless, we'll see if Malmanger decides to take an early jump with a 3-2 count with 1 out here. Here's the pitch from Barr. And it's in the dirt, ball 4. So Collins will take a walk. Malmanger goes to second base. And Oakland has 2 runners on here with 1 out. And Heidel comes up to plate.
Yeah, not ideal there. Just, he was up 1-2 and then just started throwing totally non-competitive pitches. And practically gifted Collins first base. And now more trouble with runners in scoring possession.
Brandon Heidel is the catcher for Oakland. He's 0-1 on the day. He's batting .152 currently this season on 5 hits. Kurt Barr in a tricky situation. Heidel grounds it to Burton. Double play ball for him as Jeffress gets it to Vandermortel for the double play. So the Wolverines get out of trouble there as Oakland had 2 runners on. They get out of the inning as we enter the bottom of the 4th inning. Oakland still leads 3-0 as we enter the bottom of the 4th. So Michigan really playing with fire every single inning we've seen right now, at least defensively and offensively, just nothing going for them currently at this point.
Yeah, and that was definitely big for Barr to get that double play ball and get out of the inning. Of course, the easiest way to avoid two-out trouble is just to never face a batter with 2 outs.
That's a good point.
But, the first inning only had a runner on first, only faced 3 batters. I mean, you don't like allowing the leadoff guy to reach, but nothing too much there. But then ever since, just facing a lot of trouble, he has gotten 4 innings. No one's throwing yet in the Wolverines bullpen, which makes me think they're going to bring him back out for a 5th. I mean, his pitch count has been relatively reasonable so far through 4 innings. He's thrown 53 pitches, 34 for strikes. But we just don't know how much length he's going to have because, as you mentioned, he usually is either a reliever or opening a bullpen game for these midweek games.
Yeah, Barr came into this game throwing 2 2/3 innings. Now through 4 innings, he is more than doubled that. He's tripled it, actually. So we'll have to see what happens with the Wolverines, but the Wolverines have 4 games coming up this weekend and then another midweek game next week. So you'd have to assume for Tracy Smith, you're going to want your starters to go as long as possible so you can conserve that bullpen and utilize as many pitches as possible when they have this really big stretch coming up.
Yeah, and especially next Saturday playing 18 innings as they have 1 game against UAB. Or next Friday, rather, they play 2 games. 1 against UAB at this coming Friday, 1 at noon against UAB, and then at 5 against Kennesaw State. So they have to be able to cover 18 innings there. So they really cannot afford to burn their bullpen after the damage they had done down in Houston. Chance to kind of rest up and regroup, but they need length here out of Kurt Barr to prepare for that tournament.
Completely, as Tito Flores stands in now for the Wolverines. Ball 1 to him as it's too high. Flores 0 for 1 today. He's batting 182 this season. At one point, Michigan's top power guy and one of the most consistent batting offensive players last season as Flores grounds it to shortstop. 1 bounce to the first baseman, Lux, for the out number 1 to him. So Flores' offensive struggles continue. He was batting over 300 last season as the DH. This season he's playing primarily left field, and he's really struggled to get it together offensively.
Yeah, and we saw right there, it was a nice play by the Oakland shortstop, Thomas Green, but there was the effect of the shift. They had overshifted on him, and if without a shift, Thomas Green's going to be closer to the middle, and I think that ball gets through for a hit.
Ted Burton sees a strike go by him. Strike number 1 to him. Burton batting .295 this season. Here's the pitch to him as Burton golf swings 1 foul. 0-2 the count quickly to him. Burton was an interesting player. A lot of uncertainty about if he was going to come back this season with Bakich leaving. He decides to stay. He's in the 3-hole. At one point, a top 10 MLB draft prospect trying to get to that position. High ball 1 to him. And he's going to need to have a really high batting average if he wants to get back in that conversation of getting drafted in July.
Yeah, his batting average is fine right now at .295. Obviously, you'd like to improve that even more and really help his draft stock.
Well, and Burton strikes out for out number 2, so Michigan's offense is just continuously struggling here as they have not been able to generate any runs to this point and have only been able to get 1 hit through 3 2/3 innings. Gabe Sotris comes up, the catcher. He's batting .333 at this point this season. Sotris 0 for 6, though, in his last 6 at-bats. Here's the pitch to him. Quickly swings through a high fastball, strike number 1.
Yeah, and Connister just cruising along right now. I mean, he's thrown 4 innings this year, and he's probably going more than that today.
Ball 1 to Gabe Sotris.
So it really is interesting seeing on both sides that both starters came in with very few innings, and yet they're both going much deeper than you would expect.
Sotris check swing fouls that one. So 1-2 the count to him. One and two to Sotris. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th inning. Michigan looking for any offense at this point. Here's the pitch. Sotris swings through right that one, and that will be out number 3 for the Wolverines. So through 4 innings, the Wolverines are scoreless. They've been held to 1 hit as Oakland still leads 3-0 as we enter the top of the 5th. Bryce Conitzer is putting on a clinic right now if you're Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, 4 innings, all he's allowed is 1 walk, 1 hit. I think he's only faced 1 batter over the minimum. So, I mean, the pitch counts are similar. Conitter's at 58 pitches, and Barr is at 53 pitches. Barr has 3 strikeouts through 4 innings. Conitzer has 5 strikeouts. Maybe the number of strikeouts is the only thing keeping his pitch count from being even lower. There is activity now in both bullpens, but Barr is coming back out for the 5th inning.
That is correct, and Barr looking to go as long as possible for Michigan as they have a long schedule coming up here. But Michigan is really trying to focus on their offense right now, as they've been unable to generate any offense. I also want to welcome all of you if you're listening over FM. You're listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor here on March 8th. We're currently here at Ray Fisher Stadium in Ann Arbor, Michigan for Michigan baseball as they're taking on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. As we're entering the top of the 5th currently, Michigan trails 3-0. Oakland 5 hits, Michigan 1 hit. Michigan also has 1 error on the day, and as Zach and I were just discussing, it's been really a lot of struggles for the Wolverines, not just today, but from, honestly, the last 5 games they've played.
Yeah, I mean, they're on a 5-game losing streak, and they faced a brutal schedule, but that brutal schedule is not continuing here against a 2-8 Oakland Golden Grizzlies team, and yet their offensive struggles are just as prevalent. You were down in Houston where they got shut out 2 of the 3 games, and they've also had struggles pitching. So it's been struggles on both ends. Pitching hasn't been great here. The offense just has done nothing, though.
Kurt Barr stands in now as the pitcher as he throws a high ball number 1 to Reggie Bussey. And you're completely right. I was in Houston this past weekend for the Shriners Children's College Classic, and the Wolverines got shut out in 2 of the 3 games that they played in that game as Kurt Barr sends 1 in for a strike. Inside corner, strike number 1, 1-1 the count now to Bussey. So we're here in the top of the 5th inning. Kurt Barr on the mound once again to Reggie Bussey. Here's the pitch. Bussey tries to bunt, goes foul though, too high from Bussey. And Bussey now faces a 1-2 count as a leadoff man at the top of the 5th.
Yeah, Bussey his average is down to 167, trying to make something happen. They're going with the bunt, but just pops it backward, and now with 2 strikes, he likely will not be bunting again.
Here's a pitch from Barr. Tries to curve it in there, but 2 outside, 2-2 the count now to Bussey. Barr currently 3 Ks, 2 earned runs, 3 total runs he's given up to this point. If you missed it, Barr gave up a triple in the 2nd inning that scored 1, and then subsequently an error scored the runner as well. Gave up a double RBI in the 3rd. Currently, Michigan still trails 3-0 as we enter the top of the 5th. Bussey fouls another one back. 2-2 stays the count.
Yeah, kind of trouble for Barr because, he's going in the zone, he gets fouled off, goes out of the zone, hitters aren't chasing. It seems the deception has kind of gone away as time has gone on.
Kurt Barr bounces one past Sotris, the catcher. So count is now full for Kurt Barr. Kurt Barr, primarily a relief pitcher in his 2nd start in 3 appearances. He's gone the full 4 innings to this point. Came into this contest only pitching 2 2/3 innings on the season, so way exceeding that in this matchup.
Yeah, now full count here to the 9-hitter. Barr has just got to throw a strike. I think at this point, you're facing the 9-hitter. You got the top of the order on deck. You just got to get one in the zone. And if he hits it, you can live with that result.
Here's a pitch from Barr as Barr does throw a strike. Jeffress on the charge, and he does not get Bussey at first. Bussey outruns Jeffress' throw to Jack Van Remortel. So Oakland has another infield single, their 3rd of the contest, and they have another leadoff runner on base here in the top of the 5th inning.
Yeah, kind of surprising result there. Nothing really looked unusual about that play. Maybe Jeffress was a little more lackadaisical than he needed to be and didn't quite appreciate Bussey's speed enough, but ultimately Bussey just beat it out, and we'll see now if they take advantage of that, getting the leadoff runner on their 3rd infield single of the day.
Gabe Lux in there as he sees a strike go by him. Lux 1 for 1 on the day, also got hit, so he's in his 2 appearances. He's been on base both times. He's a leadoff man for Oakland. He's batting .361 on this season. He's the only player for Oakland batting over 300, and he's well over 300 at that, as Bussy is jumping around at first base, toying with the pitcher Kurt Barr as he decides to run. Lux swings through it, so they'll charge him with a strike, but does not appear to touch that ball, so Bussy is safe at second base. He has a lot of speed on the base paths. So Michigan currently in the field right now with no outs, 0-2 the count to Gabe Lux with Bussy on second base, already facing a runner in scoring position. Here's the pitch from Lux, as Lux fouls it into the Michigan bullpen and out of play. 0-2 stays the count to him.
Yeah, and going back to that stolen base, I don't know if it was intended to be a hit and run. I wasn't paying attention enough to see if Bussy was looking back in, but Lux swung right through that pitch in the dirt. But the pitch bouncing just gave Sotris no chance to even bother making a throw.
You're completely right about that assumption. Here's the pitch from Barr. Too high, the curveball. And it did appear like it was a hit and run. The pitch was really inside, and Lux, a really good hitter at that, batting .361, still swung through that pitch despite it hitting the dirt. But when it did hit the dirt, it did give Bussy time to get to second base, and it did actually block the path from Sotris to throw it down to second base. As here's the pitch from Barr outside, 2-2 the count now to him.
And I think we're really starting to see Barr. He has 3 strikeouts, but it feels like he's really starting to struggle putting away hitters. Trying to get guys to chase, nibble on the corners a little too much. At some point, he's got to have confidence throwing into the zone to get these at-bats to end quicker.
Here's the pitch from Barr, and Lux fouls it back once again. Barr, a freshman from Ontario. Big spot here if you are a freshman. Currently pitched the first 4 innings and is in here again with the leadoff man already in scoring position in Bussy. And Gabe Lux, the best hitter for this Oakland team, up at bat with a 2-2 count to him. Here's the pitch from Barr to Lux. And Lux swings through that one. That hits the dirt. Sotris quickly looks at second, goes to first. So Lux strikes out. Bussy stays at second base. And Kurt Barr gets a much-needed strikeout here in the top of the 5th inning.
Yeah, critical strikeout there, especially with a left-handed batter up, not allowing him to advance the runner to third. And finally, I said that Barr needed more confidence throwing in the strike zone with 2 strikes. There he was just able to get the chase and end the at-bat.
As we see one of Michigan coaches come out here, I believe it is the pitching coach, Hutzinger. He's going to talk to Barr for a little bit, discuss what to do with Jared Miller, the batter for Oakland. And they're actually going to take Barr out here, so I do not know who's going to come in for the Wolverines, as we really saw little action in the Wolverines bullpen.
I mean, perhaps maybe Mitch
It's
Voigt.
going to be Brandon Lawrence. Brandon Lawrence, the junior, is primarily an infielder, but much like Mitch Voigt, the freshman, he plays the field. As we're trying to see what is occurring right now. That actually does not appear to be Lawrence.
I'm thinking it might be Mitch Voigt.
So at the beginning of the broadcast, I mentioned Mitch Voigt, the freshman, is a two-way player. He plays third base and pitcher. So Brandon Lawrence comes into the game in third base. So Lawrence will move to third. Mitch Voigt, the freshman, will now enter the game at pitcher, as we get a very interesting change here for the Wolverines. I'm personally not used to the Wolverines having two-way players. They had none last season. But having Mitch Voigt, the freshman, playing both as a pitcher and as a fielder really gives Tracy Smith, the manager, a lot of options to work with.
And worth noting here, we're in the 5th inning. The Wolverines, with that substitution, lose their DH. So whenever Mitch Voigt comes out, they're going to have to deal with a pitcher spot being in the lineup for the remainder of the game. So obviously they need the pitcher options, but it just complicates things even more the rest of the way, not having that DH spot anymore.
I mentioned earlier Voigt top prospect out of Wisconsin. He is a freshman in 53.2 innings pitched in high school. He was 11-0 with 86 strikeouts and a .52 ERA. On the offensive side of the ball in high school, he had a .566 batting average, the 1.431 OPS, and 35 RBIs. He won the Wisconsin Gatorade Player of the Year in 2022 and 5 other Player of the Year honors. So Mitch Voigt already showing why he was that highly ranked prospect out of high school. And in a few pitching appearances, he's a 0 ERA. He had a 6 out save, I wanted to say, against Grand Canyon University a week and a half ago. So currently in his collegiate pitching career, he has been perfect, and we will see if he can continue that perfection as he has a runner in scoring position here with 1 out in the top of the 5th inning.
And so worth noting, Joe Longo comes out of the game as he was the DH, and that spot is gone. Brandon Lawrence takes his spot, the 5 spot in the lineup as the third baseman.
Voigt's first pitch, 91 miles an hour on the radar gun inside the ball 1. Voigt has a lot of power in that arm as he's facing the Oakland offense. Jared Miller is up. He's the DH.
Yeah, and definitely a change of pace now with higher velocity. See how the Golden Grizzlies adjust to that. As Barrett managed to settle down a little, ultimately gave up 3 runs, 2 earned, and 4 1/3, and he's still responsible for the runner on second.
That is correct. Runner at second base is Bussey, as Voigt throws back to second base. Keep Bussey a little closer. Bussey stole second base as he got walked to first. Actually, he had an infield hit to first. Miller pops one up. Sotris tries to get it, and he manages to make the catch. Gabe Sotris, the catcher, goes over the Oakland dugout and makes a one-handed catch for out number 2 here. And Mitch Voigt, 1 batter, 1 out. That bodes well for the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, nice play there by Sotris, reaching a little into the Oakland dugout to make that play. We've seen pretty good defense from the Wolverines here. Not, for the most part, I haven't seen the same issues that plagued them last year. Only thing worth noting, the 3 infield singles, no errors. Well, they did have the 1 error as well that led to a run. And then the 3 infield singles as well. I have to wonder how much of that is not having a good enough internal clock by the fielders.
Cleary stands in now for Oakland. He's batting .250 this season. He's 1 for 2 on the day with 1 RBI, as he had a booming double over Greg Pace Jr., the center fielder's head. Voigt high and outside, ball 2 to Cleary. 2-0 the count now. 2 outs here in the top of the 5th inning. My name is Jake Singer. I'm here with Zachary Linder, as Michigan is taking on Oakland right now. The Wolverines, this is their first home game of this season in Ray Fisher Stadium. Here's the pitch from Voigt. Try to get the outside corner, cannot. 3-0 now the count.
Yeah, and of course we see the velocity. His fastball is consistently hitting about 90 to 93. With that often comes the reduced accuracy, and we're seeing he's just losing some of them arm side. Looks like maybe an early release.
Voigt's able to get one in finally for a strike. 3-1 now the count to Cleary. Oakland still has a runner in scoring position. Reggie Bussey stands on second base. He has a lot of speed in him too. A base knock will probably score him, as the Wolverines still trail Oakland 3-0. Here's the pitch to Cleary, as Cleary skies one towards third base. Brandon Lawrence is looking at it. He's at the wall. It goes back in play, and Lawrence can't find it. Foul ball. Lawrence just overran that one, as the ball tailed back just a little bit more in play than he expected, and the count is now 3-2.
You know, I don't think that would really be a Sun issue, because the Sun is in right center field. He was running away from the Sun. I think just mislocated the ball, kind of getting near the wall, and maybe got distracted by the wall, thought he ran further than he had to, and now second life for the Grizzlies. No error will be charged, but that is a potentially costly miscue.
Here's the pitch from Voigt. 3-2 the count. Cleary fouls that one off as well. So the count stays full with 2 outs here in the top of the 5th.
Yeah, so Voigt is getting worked a bit here now in his second at bat since coming in, facing Ian Cleary.
Ian Cleary, 1-2 on the day, as I previously mentioned. Here's the pitch to him. Cleary sends that one back once again. So Cleary really working Voigt here, as Voigt is really trying to get out of this inning, keeping Oakland scoreless.
Yeah, Cleary, opportunity to drive into run, as Bussy, as we mentioned, led off with an infield single, stole second with no one out. 2 outs later, he's still there at second trying to score.
Cleary fouls another one back from Voigt, so Voigt's high heat, he's consistently throwing over 90 miles an hour, something you don't always see from college pitchers. Cleary's able to just get a little bit of piece of each pitch and keep himself in the count.
Yeah, again, not quite getting out in front in time to put the ball in play, but surviving with a full count. If he sees a ball, he can get on base without ever having to time up the fastball.
Here's the pitch from Voigt. Cleary sends another one foul as it hits
something.
I believe it hit Yost Ice Arena.
Yeah, I mean, the high velocity, bat just redirected it a little, but going straight back hard and went back pretty far.
Here's the pitch from Voigt, 10th of the at-bat, and Cleary grounds it. Van Remortel handles it to Voigt at first base for out number 3. Nice work there by the first baseman, Jack Van Remortel, and nice work there by the pitcher / third baseman, Mitch Voigt, to help himself get out of the inning. As the Wolverines strand one runner, they do not give up any runs, and the Wolverines still trail Oakland 3-0 as we enter the bottom of the 5th inning.
Yeah, and good defensive work there to bail out Brandon Lawrence, who in his entrance to the game struggled trying to field that foul pop-up. But Van Remortel, nice play there, and then Voigt, even not pitching all that much, knows to do exactly what every coach wants to see a pitcher do, which is as soon as there is a ground ball to the right side, you are immediately breaking over to first base. He hesitates at all. They don't get that out. But he makes the play, and now Wolverines still down 3-0, just looking for anything on offense. They've only had 2 base runners through 4 innings, and that is just not a formula that'll beat just about any opponent.
So the Wolverines currently still trail 3-0, as we have been mentioning multiple times on this broadcast. Wolverines have been shut out 2 of their last 3 games. Both of those shutouts, though, did come to ranked opponents. So facing Oakland currently, they really need to get a run on the board here to give themselves some offensive confidence.
Yeah, and I think even if they just score 1, it could maybe be part of a momentum shift. They've kept Oakland off the board the last 2 innings. Just get something going and build a little momentum. Right now, even with the pitching recovering, the momentum's all with Oakland just because Michigan hasn't done anything to take it back.
So Brandon Lawrence, who just came into the game for Kurt Barr, the pitcher, will be the first batter up in this inning. He's currently batting .167 this season with 1 hit, as he sees a strike go right by him for strike number 1. 0-1 the count to him. No outs here in the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, and he's yet another player just without the offensive numbers so far this year.
Lawrence, though, goes inside out with it as he hits a base knock into right field. He's looking for second as he then finally retreats back to first base. Brandon Lawrence is on with a leadoff single. So with a player who only had 1 hit on the season getting his second here, that's been a common trend we've been seeing so far to this point.
Yeah, we've seen both teams have hitters take advantage of the opposite field. Both the Wolverines hits have gone the other way, and the Golden Grizzlies as well. Leadoff single there, second time getting the leadoff man on, and now we'll see once again. It sounds like we keep saying the same thing, but can they take advantage?
Joey Velasquez up now. He's batting .077 this season. He has the power, though, to hit any ball over the fence and out. Just hasn't been able to do it yet to this point in the season. He has 2 hits on the season, 3 RBIs, 1 double. 0-1 the count to him. Here it is. Velasquez fouls second one off. 0-2 the count to him now.
You have Velasquez with the flyout his first time up and just looking to drive the ball further. Getting the ball in the air is one thing, but you got to hit it in the air with power to get the result, and he hasn't had them this year.
Here's the pitch of Velasquez, high and outside. Ball 1 to him, 1-2 the count now. Velasquez, one of the heroes of the season last season, had a huge Big Ten tournament. Most notably had a 3-hit game against Illinois in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Here's the pitch to him. Velasquez fouls that one off as well. 1-2 stays the count.
You know, we see Conser, his fastball only running 84 right there, so significant difference from Voit able to get into the low 90s. Wolverines hitters still have been pretty consistently behind the heater today.
Here's the pitch to Velasquez as he grounds one to second base. Nice sliding grab there. They could go for 2 as Velasquez is too quick, though. So they'll get Lawrence out at second base. Velasquez outruns the ball and gets to first safely. But really nice defensive play there by Jelinek of Oakland, sliding to his right, making the sliding grab and getting Brandon Lawrence down at second base for the fielder's choice.
Yeah, that ball, it was just too difficult of a play in order to get 2. But as you said, nice play by Jelinek, sliding, getting there, getting the lead runner. Just with the time that took, they weren't going to be able to get 2, but they prevent the Wolverines from getting the first 2 guys of the inning on.
Jack Van Remortel stands in. He check swings for a strike. He got walked in his first at-bat, so he's still batting .320 this season. Van Remortel has been the primary first baseman for this team up to this point, as he fouls one back. 0-2 quickly to count to him. Van Remortel split time at first base last season with Jake Marty. Marty, though, has gotten a lot of work in the outfield. In the Shriners Children's College Classic this weekend in Houston, Texas, Marty played 2 games in the outfield, one of which, though, resulted in him leaving with an injury. So Van Remortel has really been the primary first baseman. Here's a pitch to Van Remortel, way outside. 1-2 the count now to him. We have 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th inning with Joey Velasquez at first base, reaching on a fielder's choice. Here's the pitch to Jack Van Remortel. And Van Remortel goes down on swinging. Strike number 3 to him. So Van Remortel goes down on a strikeout. Mitch Voit now stands in. Currently the pitcher, started the game at third base. He's a two-way player, throws high heaves, throwing in the 90 to 91 range when he just came in for relief of Kurt Barr. 0 for 1 on the day. He just dribbles one down to the first baseman, Lux, and he'll be retired for out number 3. So Oakland continuously holding Michigan scoreless, as Michigan's now scoreless through 5 innings as we enter the top of the 6th inning.
Yeah, and I mean, it's gotten to the point it almost feels like we're a broken record, and I'm sure a lot of what we're saying today is what you were saying down in Houston. It's just every time you're looking for something, whether it's a leadoff base runner or getting a guy to second, just anything that maybe could spark the Wolverines' offense. I don't think they've had a runner in scoring position through 5 innings. They've gotten the leadoff man on twice. Both times it hasn't led to anything. So it's just, I mean, we're kind of nitpicking to find something that could be a spark. And, of course, nothing has been up to this point.
Michigan's offensive struggles just continue, and it's something that I personally believe would fix itself coming home. Now you're home and you're playing your home turf. This is where they practiced all offseason. This is where they probably feel the most comfortable. They're also playing a lot lower of competition than they've been playing the last 3 games, and playing 2 top 10 opponents in Louisville and TCU, and even playing number 24 ranked Texas Tech, but currently getting shut out by Oakland through 5 and still giving up those 3 runs in the 2nd and 3rd innings. If you're Tracy Smith, you're really running out of options here of how do you fix this offense from sputtering out each game.
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of reminiscent of last year, they lost 14-7 to Oakland. Of course, as you mentioned, the team's issues were totally different there, but still a game they shouldn't have lost. And now here it's on the offensive side. It really seemed like the perfect get-right game after a rough showing down in Texas, and instead it seems to just be dragging out the issues instead of getting anything right.
Completely. Well, Zach, I'm going to turn the play-by-play over to you. I'm going to stay here on color. Zach Linder and Jake Singer here on WCBN Sports as we enter the top of the 6th inning. Michigan still trails Oakland 3-0. Zach, take it away.
So it'll be 4, 5, and 6 coming up for Oakland to start this inning. It'll be Thomas Green, the shortstop, in the cleanup spot. He'll lead off the 6th inning. Struck out and flied out so far. He's 0 for 2 on the day. It's Mitch Voigt in. Got the final 2 outs of the 5th inning. First pitch, fastball, clips the inside corner, taking called strike, count 0-1. Voigt came in 1 out in the 5th. Got a foul out and a ground out. 0-1 count. Pitch comes, fastball, same spot, same result. Down and in for a called strike. Both pitches 91 miles per hour. He has got the velocity and jumps ahead of the cleanup hitter 0-2. As Voigt working out of the stretch, not using the windup, 0-2. Line drive hit out to right field, but it will be playable, and the catch will be made by the right fielder, Joey Velasquez. And a quick first out here for Voigt in the top of the 6th inning.
Yeah, really good command there by Mitch Voigt. 2 pitches back-to-back in the high inside corner, both really high speed, and that third pitch, 92 miles an hour, really jams the cleanup hitter Green. And by Velasquez, really nice job of finding that ball as he really struggled defensively this past weekend.
So it'll be Jelenik in now. As it appeared he offered at the pitch with a bunt. Gets called for a strike, count 0-1. Jelenik 0 for 2. He struck out twice in this game. The second baseman batting left-handed. In here with 1 out, no one on top of the 6th as the Golden Grizzlies are up 3-0 over the Wolverines in their home opener. 0-1 count, ground ball the other way to the shortstop. It is played, throw over to first. Gets him as Michigan makes the play. Jeffress at short, throwing over to Van Remortel. And 2 quick outs on 5 pitches in the 6th inning.
Back-to-back really good pitches from Voigt, jamming both batters. And really nice defensive work there by Jeffress to get the out at first, as he's also had a few struggles this game.
Malmenger steps in. He fouls the first pitch off to the right side. He's 2 for 2, single twice, scored the first run of the game back in the 2nd inning on Collins' RBI triple. He's looking for a 3-hit game here. His average on the season sitting at 286. 0-1 pitch comes, off-speed pitch on the inside corner for a called strike, 79 miles per hour. Looked like a changeup. And now Voigt is ahead 0-2, looking for a quick 1-2-3 inning. So count is 0-2. Voigt will deliver. And weak grounder to the left side. It's going to roll foul as the new third baseman for the Wolverines, Brandon Lawrence, will pick it up in foul territory.
And we hadn't seen Voigt really throw many off-speed pitches up until this at-bat. He must know something about Malmenger throwing back-to-back off-speed pitches, and so far Malmenger has rolled over on both of them.
Yeah, definitely. He's really used his fastball velocity. 0-2, pitch fouled back, another off-speed pitch. And it looked like maybe Malmenger was a little out in front and got on top of it as well. So he's made contact with all 3, but just not able to barrel it up at all. Count remains 0-2. Here comes the 0-2 again. Fastball upstairs, check swing, appeal to first. He did not swing. So goes back to the fastball, climbs the ladder, and entices Malmenger, but he's able to hold back in time. Count is now 1-2. 1-2, 2 outs, no one on, top of the 6th. Here comes the pitch. And that's also fouled off the other way. So Malmenger looking for his 3rd hit, at least making Voigt work a little bit, as he got the first 2 batters out on only 5 pitches.
And Malmenger's really benefited from the infield single, both of his hits being that, so we'll see if some weak contact can get him on base.
And another foul ball back out of play. So Malmenger just hanging in there, another off-speed pitch. So as you mentioned, Voigt not kind of pitching backwards a little bit. Threw a couple fastballs, but really depending on the off-speed here to try to get through this inning. 1-2-3. 1-2. Line drive out to right field, but it'll be caught by Velasquez. And so a quick 1-2-3 inning for the Wolverines. as that, I believe, will be their first 1-2-3 inning of the game. Barr did not get any through 5 innings. Middle of the 6th here at Ray Fisher Stadium, and it's still the Oakland Golden Grizzlies out 3-0 over the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, Mitch Voigt came into today, 3 appearances, no starts, and 3 innings pitched. He had a 0 ERA, only giving up 4 hits, I should say. He has now pitched another 1.2 innings, and he has been looking really solid to this point, and having that velocity in college, especially as a young freshman, he's going to be here for at least 3 years, really is probably gives your manager and Tracy Smith a lot of confidence in you, and that's why we're going to see Mitch Voigt probably come out for another inning after today.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, having the velocity, it felt like when you were looking at Barr by the end of his appearance, he'd get ahead, but then with 2 strikes, he was just too scared to throw in the strike zone and would end up throwing non-competitive pitches, whereas when you have that higher velocity, you have more, even if you don't locate as well, you're able to get pitches by hitters more well and kind of play on your stuff. And so it gives the advantage of not having to be as perfect with location and therefore having more confidence attacking in the strike zone.
Christian Stelling comes in for Oakland as the new pitcher.
Yeah, and his stats on the year are not ideal, coming in with a 6.14 ERA, a 1.57 whip. So he'll definitely be looking to improve on that. What maybe for the Wolverines is a sign of potentially something. The left-handed pitcher coming in, can they perhaps get just something going with the mostly right-handed lineup?
He's a very long and lanky windup. With my experience with pitchers like that, he has to sacrifice a little bit of velocity to find that control. So we'll have to see if Stelling can find that control against this Wolverines team. And you're completely right. The Wolverines really need to try to capitalize here offensively as we're entering the bottom of the 6th inning.
So it'll be 9-1-2 for the Wolverines. Greg Pace Jr. will lead off. And the first pitch will be a fastball up and away for ball 1. So count goes to 1-0. Wolverines only have 2 left-handed hitters in their lineup, Cody Jeffress and Joey Velasquez. So mostly righties, as Greg Pace will foul a pitch off his leg, I believe. So the count will now be even at 1-1. Bottom of the 6th, Michigan down 3-0. Finally knocked Conitzer out of the game. He had only thrown 4 innings in 2 games on the season, threw 5 shutout innings, allowing only 2 hits and a walk here this afternoon in Ann Arbor. But he is out of the game now. It's the left-hander Christian Stelling in the game. Count is 1-1 to Pace. Pitch comes, he bunts, but it's going to go foul to the left side, as Heidel will pick it up just on the left edge of the dirt circle around home plate in foul territory. So count is now 1-2, likely eliminating the possibility of another bunt attempt.
Yeah, Greg Pace Jr. tried to do that twice in Houston, and both times he was unsuccessful as well. See, Tracy Smith's really trying to utilize this bunt for a hit. Michigan actually was led up many bunt for hits in Houston as well.
1-2 in the dirt, but he is ruled to have swung by the home plate umpire. Sean Howard on the call, and he's tagged by Brandon Heidel for the first out, and I don't think he liked the call. Of course, as a hitter, you want the plate umpire to appeal, but no appeal there. Pace is gone, 1 out here, bottom of the 6th.
Pace back-to-back strikeouts today, and as I said, he literally just won Big Ten Freshman of the Week a week and a half ago, and since he won that honor, he's really been struggling offensively.
First pitch to Cody Jeffress is fouled the other way. Jeffress one of 2 left-handers in the lineup, so Stelling has the side advantage here. Count is 0-1 with 1 out, no one on. Pitch is hit a fly ball into left field pretty deep, but it's going to be playable, a little short of the warning track. Drew Collins with the catch, and now 2 quick outs here at the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, they just jammed Cody Jeffress right there. Really nice pitch from Stelling. And you're right, one of the 2 lefties is probably one of the reasons they put Stelling in this position to face Jeffress, and he did his exact job of trying to jam the lefty-on-lefty matchup. And despite the really far fly ball, there's nothing you can do if you're Jeffress. That wasn't going to drop, and a really nice catch there by Drew Collins in left field.
So Tito Flores will step in as first pitch is breaking ball, it looked on the outside corner for a called strike. Flores 0 for 2, fly out and ground out, as his struggles continue, hitting only 178 on the season with just 2 extra base hits. And he'll hit a grounder, weak grounder to the right side, and the pitcher's just going to take it himself as Stelling just grabbed it and sprinted over to first. So a very quick 3-up, 3-down inning, as that'll be the 3rd time the Wolverines go down in order here this afternoon. We're through 6 at Ray Fisher Stadium, and it's still Oakland out in front 3-0.
Yeah, that was a really textbook performance there by Oakland on one hand. Really nice job by Stelling. He jammed a lefty. He was able to force weak contact to one batter, and he's able to strike out another batter. So really good job by his part. And Michigan just cannot find a way to get the barrel on the ball in any circumstance. Both of their singles have been inside-out contact, weak balls to the outfield. I haven't seen them hit an extra base hit in a long time, and really, like, these struggles have surmounted where I'm assuming the confidence of this team has really now dwindled down, and they really can't find any way to garner any contact whatsoever.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they have not had a runner reach second base today. They've just had 2 singles and a walk. The singles coming on balls that have been placed well, not hit particularly hard. But if you want to start scoring runs, you're at some point going to need extra base hits. And those require driving the ball with authority, not just hitting weak fly balls to the outfield, which is what we've seen the Wolverines do too much. And, yeah, they really just need to find that stroke. But it ends up in this kind of endless chain where you struggle, you lose confidence, and because you don't have confidence, you continue to struggle. I mean, I feel like everyone probably experiences that feeling somewhere in life, and I think that's exactly what the Wolverines are going through on offense right now.
They're really struggling there, Zach, today, and it's been that same old story. They've lost the last 5. They got shut out to Louisville and TCU this weekend. They were losing pretty handedly to Texas Tech until Texas Tech put in one of their lower tier relievers in the bottom of the 9th inning, and Michigan was able to score 3 off of him. So really, I haven't seen this Michigan team put up solid offensive numbers against a legitimate pitcher in four games.
It'll be the bottom third of the order coming up for the Grizzlies. Drew Collins will lead off. He had an RBI triple, scored an error, and a walk. 1 for 1 on the day. First pitch from Voigt. He'll foul off the other way, laid on the 91-mile-per-hour fastball. Mitch Voigt is in for his 3rd inning of work. The freshman with velocity, 2-way player for the Wolverines, came in from third base with 1 out in the 5th inning to relieve the starter Kurt Barr. 0-1 fastball, up and away for a ball. I believe the scoreboard is wrong, as I believe he fouled the first pitch off.
That is correct. It's a 1-1 count right now from Mitch Voigt.
Leadoff hitter here in the top of the 7th. 1-1 pitch comes. Fastball misses down, it appeared, for a ball. 2-1. So now we saw at Malmenger, he was really working the off speed. 3 fastballs here. Count is 2-1. The scoreboard had 3-0, which we just saw the umpire signal it, and now they have corrected it. So 2-1 count, and there he goes off speed. Called strike. Looked like right over the middle. Just froze Collins, and the count goes to 2-2.
That was a beautiful curveball right there from Mitch Voigt, really curling it all the way in, and you're right, completely froze Collins. He had nothing to do with it.
2-2 pitch. Comes off the outside corner, and it'll be fielded by the shortstop. Throw over to first for the out on a weak grounder that Lawrence made a diving attempt for, but was not able to field. But Jeffress was there to back him up, made the play to first. And so that's now 6 straight batters retired for Mitch Voigt since he entered the game.
And Michigan's really fortunate that Brandon Lawrence couldn't get to that ball. He had no play at first base if he did end up getting that ball, but Jeffress was already had the momentum going towards first base. He was able to get him out pretty easily to Jack Van Mortel.
It's the first pitch. Swing and a miss there from Heidel on a high fastball. And as you mentioned, Lawrence would have been on the ground and had no chance, but it was soft enough, unlike that infield hit from Malmenger we saw earlier, that Jeffress was able to circle around it a little and get the momentum. 0-1 pitch, flied into right field, and it will be playable and caught in the shadows by Velasquez. And there's 2 quick outs. So Voigt really cruising here, retiring the first 7 batters he's faced since coming in the 5th inning.
And Voigt's really pairing that top speed of 91 miles an hour with that breaking ball of 78 miles an hour. And as we saw with Kurt Barr was really staying around the 85 mile an hour mark with his fastball, and his breaking ball is about 80 miles an hour. So not as much of a difference, but if you're a batter and you're facing this kind of speed change, it's really difficult to get back on track.
First pitch to Bussey is a fastball on the outside corner for a called strike. And as you were talking about, sometimes it's less about the velocity itself. Obviously, a power fastball can help, but sometimes it's more the difference in velocity. That hard fastball really makes the breaking ball so much more effective. As there he goes off speed on the outside corner, gets a backup curveball in for a strike, and the count goes to 0-2. Bussey was showing bunt but pulled back.
Yeah, the back door was the only pitch that Bussey could not have hit if he tried to bunt that ball, so it was a beautiful design there by Voigt, and nice pitch design.
0-2 fastball taken upstairs for a ball, so the count goes to 1-2. And yeah, we've seen Voigt really have this effective 2-pitch mix with the fastball and curveball. Being able to place that curveball and just the deception makes it almost unhittable. This 1-2 pitch is fouled back. That was a curveball that Bussey just got way out in front of and managed to just kind of spin around backward with the bat. So he stays alive. Timing way off. 1-2. Voigt looking for a second consecutive clean inning. As he deals and misses away with the changeup, I believe, just off the outside corner, throwing 85 miles per hour there. We haven't seen that pitch too much from him, but the count is now 2-2.
That one looked good from here. He almost glazed the outside corner of the strike zone. Umpire said it was just a little too outside, but that changeup actually looks really nasty from our vantage point.
2-2. Fastball outside corner, called third strike, and the side is retired. Bussey doesn't think so. Maybe had a couple words for the umpire, but he'll head back to the dugout. And we are at the 7th inning stretch here as the Wolverines still trail 3-0. We have seen the pitching rebound as Voigt has retired all 8 batters he's faced. The offense has continued to do nothing through 6 innings.
And Voigt went to the exact same spot with that fastball that he did with the changeup the pitch before. There's a little more inside to glaze the outside corner of the strike zone, and that high heat, as we were saying, the contrast between the 91 mile an hour fastball and the 78 mile an hour curveball and like the 80 mile an hour changeup, especially in college baseball, is really hard for batters to adjust to. I know when I was playing high school baseball, if we faced a pitcher that would throw 87 miles an hour and maybe threw like a 68 mile an hour curveball, that was really difficult for me to adjust to. So I can't imagine even bumping up that speed more going against 91 mile an hour pitching and facing that 80 mile an hour changeup is really, really difficult for these Oakland batters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did not play high school baseball, so my playing experience is limited to MLB The Show. And I can say, even in a virtual world, I still feel the exact same thing. The amount of times I'm way out in front of curveballs after seeing harder fastballs, it's just so difficult to adjust to because you almost as a hitter, you just kind of have to pick one pitch. So if you're facing Voigt, you kind of have to take the fastball. You have to sit on the fastball. You get the curveball. You just don't have a chance for it.
It's more about a guessing game for a batter in that situation, and we've been seeing the Oakland batters have been guessing wrong since Voigt has come out. He's been perfect recently, not giving up a single run or even really a base runner at that.
So it'll be 3, 4, and 5 for the Wolverines. Ted Burton will lead off. First pitch, he'll swing through a low fastball. Count is 0-1. Burton 0 for 2, ground out and strikeout. His average now still sits at 289. 0-1 pitch, swings through a pitch in the dirt. The count is now 0-2. So back-to-back swinging strikes to start the at-bat for Burton. Wolverines still looking for anything. No runs, 2 hits, 1 errors in the game. 0-2 pitch, misses down and away, count 1-2.
And Burton came into the weekend in Houston batting over 340. Now his average has dropped down to 289, so really struggling in the last 4 games.
1-2, hits a high pop-up in the infield, and it will be caught by the shortstop, Thomas Green, and 1 away here, bottom of the 7th.
Burton's now 0 for 8 in his last 8 at-bats. And just not what you want to see from your 3-hole hitter that really dictates how this offense goes. Last season, it was Joe Stewart, the transfer from Michigan State, and he was on a tear all season long, and that's partly why this Michigan offense was so electric last year.
Yeah, so now with 1 out, it'll be the cleanup hitter. Sotris will step in, take a called strike. The count is now 0-1. Sotris also 0 for 2, ground out and strikeout. The 0-1 pitch comes, and it'll be taken on the inside corner, called strike. So once again, Stelling getting ahead 0-2. And as you mentioned, Burton had an average over 340, and with the offensive struggles, you can't afford to lose the one spark you had. As the 0-2 pitch is taken upstairs for a ball, so we're really just seeing the struggles kind of run through the entire lineup.
Completely. Now with Sotris up 2, Sotris batting over 450 going into the weekend. Now his average down to 324. And I haven't seen him get a single hit in my time watching these last 4 baseball games either. So your number 3 and 4 hitters not being able to manage any hits really poses an issue for your offense.
As Sotris will take a pitch down and in, then another pitch up and away. So Stelling losing a little command. The count is now full. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, no one on. Michigan down 3-0, bottom of the 7th. Here comes the full count pitch. And it is taken inside, ball 4, and Sotris manages a 1-out walk to give the Wolverines a base runner.
And that gives a little applause to the crowd. Crowd's excited to finally see a Michigan base runner, as we have not seen one in a while. Michigan only 2 hits on the day, looking to finally do something on offense with the limited opportunities they've had now through 6 innings.
So Brandon Lawrence will step in for his second at-bat since coming in as a defensive replacement. Runner on first, 1 out. He got a single his first time up, as he'll try to check his swing, but backhead goes way out in front, so the count is now 0-1. Wolverines down 3-0. They've had 2 hits, 2 walks on the day. That is all. 0-1. Pitch comes and swings through a pitch down below the zone, it looked. Count is now 0-2. Lawrence way off balance there. Looked like he was out in front. Could not keep the bat back. And the count is 0-2. Sotris on first with 1 out. The pitch comes, and off-speed pitch gets Lawrence swinging. As Stelling is able to keep him off balance that at bat, gets the strikeout. And now 2 outs here in the bottom of the 2nd. Sotris still at first base.
Yeah, it appears that Stelling has a lot of movement on his balls. He throws a cutter, he throws a sinker, and that one was a really interesting off-speed pitch there, kind of like a sinker curveball action, but a lot slower in motion and really tripped up Brandon Lawrence. He had nothing to do with the ball and really couldn't find any contact on those 3 pitches.
So the right fielder, Joey Velasquez, will step in now with 2 outs and a runner on first. He's 0 for 2 with a fly out and grounded into a fielder's choice. First pitch comes, and that's an off-speed pitch taken down and in for a ball 1-0. As Wolverines still have not reached second base. And I apologize, is Cody Holton coming in as a pinch hitter? As he is in the box, takes a called strike on the inside corner, count 1-1.
So Holting is going to come in right now, standing in Joey Velasquez's place.
1-1 pitch comes, and he'll hit a fly ball into center field, medium depth, easily playable for the center fielder, Reggie Bussey, and the side is retired. No runs, no hits, no errors. 1 is left on. And through 7 innings, it remains Oakland ahead 3-0.
So Michigan really trying to change it up a little bit. We'll also have to see if Mitch Voigt decides to stay out there as the pitcher. But Michigan now putting in Cody Holting, and we'll see if Brandon Lawrence stays out there at third base, as he is still coming back out there. So there's a lot of changes, and as we're getting into the later part of this game, now entering the 8th inning, Michigan's really running out of opportunities to score some runs.
Yeah, we saw Holting had no average, so that was his first at-bat. His average is set at 0 now, and that's going to leave the right field spot open. And, yeah, they they have not gotten a runner up to second base, so it's not like they're wasting opportunities. They just have had no opportunities.
So Holting will move out to right field. They're going to keep Greg Pace Jr. in center. Flores is in left. And they're going to keep Mitch Voigt out there on the mound, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, he's pitched 2 2/3 innings. He's faced 8 batters. He's retired them all. He's thrown 39 pitches, and they're willing to give him more. He's been effective and really helping save the bullpen before they play 2 games on Friday, 4 overall this weekend. So, obviously the offensive struggles we've commented on more than enough. On the pitching side, we saw Barr run into some early trouble, not helped out by his defense, but the Wolverines to this point have only had to use 2 pitchers. So that in itself is a victory as they try to at least keep their pitchers fresh, because they're probably down in Kennesaw going to need strong performances out of their pitchers to come away with a couple victories.
100%. It's a really big thing, especially early on in the season for Tracy Smith, the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, to see which pitchers can he use. He started Kurt Barr now twice, but with the way Mitch Voigt's pitching, maybe he gets a start in the midweek next week or something like that. But also, Mitch Voigt has that offensive ability that you can still plug him into the offensive lineup for as long as possible. I'm assuming that Tracy Smith also keeps that in mind, not wanting to take out Voigt to lose that bat.
It'll be top of the order here in the 8th inning. First pitch, curveball away for a ball to Gabe Lux. He's 1 for 2 with a single, hit by pitch, and a run scored. He also struck out his last time up in the 5th. So the 1-0 pitch is a fastball on the outside corner for a called strike. Evens up the count at 1-1. 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors for Oakland. No runs, 2 hits, 1 error for the Wolverines. The count is even at 1-1 to the leadoff hitter. Pitch comes and offers with a bunt. No contact made. Ruled to have attempted. Count is now 1-2. So we've seen several bunt attempts by both teams. They've all either been missed or they've been fouled off. Count is 1-2, so we won't see a bunt here. And he swings and misses through it. A changeup. Down and away. So Lux strikes out for the second time this afternoon, and there's now 1 away rather in the top of the 8th.
Yeah, nice pitch there from Voigt, just continuously retiring batters. It's all you want to see if you're the manager, giving your offense a chance here in the bottom of the 8th inning to get something on the board here. But the more runs you give up, the further this game seems out of reach.
Jared Miller hits a high pop-up into short right field, and it will be caught by the second baseman, Ted Burton, well out into the grass. But he makes the play, and now that's 2 quick outs. Miller is now 0 for 4, and that's 10 straight men set down by Voigt since he moved to the mound. So it'll be Ian Cleary stepping in now. He's 1 for 3, had an RBI double in the 3rd inning that drove in the 3rd run for the Grizzlies. We have not seen any scoring on either side since then. 2 outs, no one on. First pitch, fastball just outside, as Sotres held on to it a little longer than normal, as though he thought he'd get the call. He does not, and the count is now 1-0. The 1-0 comes, and check swing, but he goes too far on a curveball that fooled him, and Cleary was not able to hold up in time. Count is even now 1-1. 2 outs, no one on. Oakland up 3-0, top of the 8th. Voigt on the mound for the Wolverines. He's retired the first 10 batters he's faced. As curveball backdoor on the outside corner gets the call. That's a strike, and the count is now 1-2. Voigt looking for his 3rd consecutive clean inning after Barr was not able to set the side down in order at all. And swing and a miss on a changeup in the dirt. Throw will be made to first base by Sotres. Van Immortal takes the throw, and that is 11 consecutive batters retired, 3 strikeouts for Mitch Voigt, as he has dominated since he came onto the mound with 1 out in the 5th inning. We're at the middle of the 8th as the Wolverines still trail 3-0.
And Michigan really just latching on to Mitch Voigt here, trying to give themselves any sort of confidence, any sort of momentum going into the bottom of the 8th inning. They've not been able to generate any offense to this point, but with Mitch Voigt's 11 consecutive batters faced and batters put down, you'd have to hope that maybe Michigan will come out swinging a little harder here as we enter the bottom of the 8th inning. Michigan's running out of chances. They only have 6 outs to give until this game is over against Oakland, and still losing 3-0. It's just been a disappointing performance, to say the least, to this point.
Yeah, Mitch Voigt will come up second in the 8th inning, as it'll be the bottom third of the order coming up for the Wolverines. Maybe he can try to give himself a little offensive assistance, as it'll be a new pitcher coming in.
It'll be Noah Stantz coming in.
So Stantz will enter after stelling through 2 scoreless innings. Stantz comes in with a 9.64 ERA, having allowed 5 earned runs in 4 2/3 innings. But as we've seen so far, the Wolverines' struggles have been too much for the elevated ERAs of the Grizzlies pitchers to overcome, as they have thrown 7 shutout innings, including Stelling, who came in with a 6.14 ERA and promptly threw 2 shutout innings, only allowing 1 walk.
Wolverines are really going to need to generate some offense, as you said. They're currently at the bottom of their lineup with Van Remortel, Mitch Voigt, and currently Greg Pace Jr. We'll see if Greg Pace Jr. stays in the game, though, as he had been pulled in the last 2 contests around this point in the game for another offensive weapon. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Wolverines decide to do, but Van Remortel will step in, and Voigt appears he's at least on deck for now, and then we'll see if he will continue in the 9th inning, as Michigan has someone up in the bullpen right now.
So the Grizzlies' 3rd pitcher of the game is ready to go. Zach Van Remortel will step in. He's 0 for 1 as a walk and a strikeout on the day. And here comes the first pitch, and it is taken low for a ball. Fastball hitting 88 miles per hour, and the count goes to 1-0 to the Wolverines' first baseman. 1-0 pitch, and that fastball will miss upstairs. So he goes low then high, and Van Remortel is ahead 2-0. Stantz is working out of the windup. We see a lot of relievers work exclusively out of the stretch. There he gets a fastball in for a called strike. On the inside corner, count moves to 2-1. Bottom of the 8th, Wolverines trailing 3-0. They have only 2 hits. 2-1 pitch, and that'll miss inside, well inside, as Van Remortel has to lean a bit out of the way, get his hands up, and the count is now 3-1. Van Remortel has 1 walk on the afternoon, looking for a second maybe. 3-1 pitch, and fastball clips the inside corner. That'll make the count full here to the first batter in the bottom of the 8th. So Stantz works into a full count in the first batter he faces. The 3-2 offering, and swing and a miss by Van Remortel. Looked like a pitch in the strike zone that he just could not connect with, and he goes down on strikes for the 2nd time this afternoon, 1 away, bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, Van Remortel had a batter's count with a 3-1 count, and just going down on strikes, just could not find the barrel to the ball, as Michigan has a change right now. Dylan Stanton comes in for Mitch Voigt, so Voigt's night is done.
So we do see activity in the Michigan bullpen, so we thought he might be done as a pitcher. He will be done as a hitter as well. So Stanton comes in as the pinch hitter, as the first pitch is a fastball inside. He also has no at-bats on the season. Or correction, he does. He has 1. He also does have a walk. The count is 1-0. That fastball will be taken upstairs for a ball, so it's a 2-0 count with 1 away in the bottom of the 8th.
Appears Cam Hart is up in the bullpen for the Wolverines, another infielder. And assuming a two-way player at that as well.
2-0 fastball on the outside corner for a called strike. So the count is now 2-1. So Stance working from behind of these first couple hitters. Count is 2-1 with 1 out. And misses upstairs, so the count is 3-1. Wolverines also have Ian Kennedy in the on-deck circle, so it looks like they will pinch hit for Greg Pace, as you had alluded to during the inning break. 3-1, misses inside, maybe upstairs as well. There's ball 4, so Stanton will get his second walk of the season in his pinch hitting appearance, and the Wolverines get just their 5th base runner of the game here in the bottom of the 8th.
Now pinch hitting for Michigan, number 42, Ian Kennedy.
Ian Kennedy has 2 at-bats this season, drawing 1 walk and 1 strikeout.
So Ian Kennedy, the junior, will step in with a runner on first, 1 out. First pitch, swings through a fastball at 89 miles per hour, cannot catch up to it, and Kennedy falls behind 0-1.
Kennedy had a monster fall. He's a huge power hitter for this Wolverines team, and I'm assuming Tracy Smith's looking for him to go deep with this one.
0-1, and pitch taken upstairs for a ball, and then quick throw over from Heidel to first base, or they did call it a strike. So again, you are listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor as the Wolverines baseball team takes on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, trailing 3-0 in the bottom of the 8th. The count is 0-2, and Stance spikes a pitch there outside. Just way off with the release point. I believe it was an off-speed pitch that he held on to too long. The count is 1-2. 1 out. Dylan Stanton is on first base after a pinch hit walk. Ian Kennedy now in as a pinch hitter. Top of the order, Cody Jeffress on deck. 1-2 count. And called third strike on the inside corner. 91 mile per hour fastball freezes Kennedy. And that is Stan's second strikeout.
Ian Kennedy really had a nice little battle there for an at-bat, but you're right, completely gets frozen inside corner. Can't do anything with that fastball as he goes down back to the dugout. And Michigan quickly has 2 outs here in the bottom of the 8th inning, and they're running out of batters to try to get back into this one.
So Jeffress steps in, first pitch, fastball away. That's now 10 strikeouts for the Wolverines hitters. Grizzlies have 7, and they are just not giving themselves enough of an opportunity. 2 outs, runner on first, leadoff hitter is up. It is the 1-0 pitch, fastball on the outside corner, gets a called strike, evens up the count at 1-1. Wolverines 2 hits, 3 walks, that's all they have had on the bases. No runner has reached second base. Wolverines trying to change that here as the 1-1 pitch misses upstairs for a ball. So Stance has not been consistently throwing strikes here. As he's thrown 15 pitches, only 7 strikes, nonetheless has 2 strikeouts to the 1 walk. 2-1 count. Pitch comes, misses down and away, so the count is 3-1. This is the 3rd hitter that Stance has fallen behind 3-1 to. Tying run is on deck in Tito Flores if Jeffress is able to reach. 3-1 count. Pitch comes. Fastball gets the outside corner. Looked like it was maybe upstairs, but Stance gets the call. The count is full, and so that'll send the runner into motion on a 3-2 count with 2 down. Stanton is at first. He'll be running. First baseman is behind the bag. 3-2 pitch comes, and a grounder chopper fielded by the pitcher, throw to first, and he gets him.
Really crazy play there by Stance to have to not only go once with his glove to go for the ball, but ball pops up right in front of him, and he regathers himself, gets the ball, and recognizes there's already 2 outs, can go right to first base for out number 3. Wolverines had a chance there, but just nothing doing, and the Wolverines still now through 8 innings have not had a base runner reach second base. They're still only at 2 hits on the entire game.
So no runs, no hits, no errors, 1 left on there. Wolverines, as you said, down 3-0 after 8. And we now have Tracy Smith having a meeting with the home plate umpire to figure out how this substitution is going to work. Remember, when Mitch Voigt moved from third base to pitcher, the Wolverines forfeited their designated hitter spot. So their pitcher will now have to enter the game. It'll be number 28, Cam Hart, another two-way player, as you had alluded to. He will come into the game. So only the Wolverines' third pitcher they're using here this afternoon, as Kurt Barr rebounded from some early struggles to go 4 1/3 after only pitching 2 2/3 innings in his first 2 appearances this season. Then Mitch Voigt, dominant, faced 11 hitters and retired all of them.
We have another substitution for the Wolverines, too. Jonathan Kim, the freshman, goes out to center field. So he'll replace Greg Pace Jr. as Ian Kennedy had hit for Greg Pace Jr. Jonathan Kim, another prospect out of Wisconsin, pretty highly ranked out of high school. Hasn't really been able to start many games this season, but he has come into this position many times for his defense late in games.
And on the mound for Wolverines, number 28, Cam Hart.
So we're set here for the 9th inning, as Cam Hart will take the mound for the Golden Grizzlies. It'll be the middle of the order, 4, 5, and 6 coming up. Thomas Green, the shortstop, redshirt senior, will lead off for them. He's 0 for 3 with a strikeout and pair of flyouts. So Hart getting just about done with his warm-ups. As we get set for the 9th inning, Wolverines down 3-0 and just looking to make something happen. Cam Hart has not allowed any earned runs in 2 appearances. He's only thrown 2 innings on the season, as he's looking to give the pitch the final inning here for the Wolverines before they have one more opportunity to put together some offense in the bottom of the 9th. So we're ready for the top of the 9th. Green in the box. The first pitch will be spiked down and away for a ball. Count goes to 1-0. One 1-0 pitch comes, and that'll miss down and in at 84 miles per hour. The count is 2-0. Oakland has not had a base runner since a leadoff single in the 5th inning, but they are up 3-0. 2-0 pitch, and throws another one in the dirt. So he just yanked it. Misses outside and low, and the count is now 3-0.
Yeah, Cam Hart, as we said, a two-way player, is not primarily a pitcher. Interesting choice here by Tracy Smith, probably just trying to get out of this game and save his mainly relief pitchers for that doubleheader they have on Friday in that 4-game series they have this weekend. So just hoping that Cam Hart can get out of here scot-free, and the Wolverines will have one more chance to capitalize in the bottom of the 9th inning. But worst case scenario, still keeping all their relief pitchers for that 4-game contest this weekend.
So Sotres will go out for a mound visit after Hart just no command at all, throwing 3 straight balls to start. I believe that's the first mound visit we've seen either team use all game.
Mound visit that didn't include a team taking a pitcher out, yes. Cam Hart, 2 appearances, 0 ERA.
3-0 pitch, and command no better, misses down and in, and so a 4-pitch walk gives Oakland their first base runner since the 5th inning, as Wolverines pitchers have retired the last 12, and with that, the pitching coach is now going to come out. So we're seeing 2 mound visits, 1 pitch apart, as this is not what the Wolverines wanted to see.
It's interesting because Cam Hart in his 2 innings pitch has given up only 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. Now it's 2nd walk of the game. They're going to take Cam Hart out here, actually. That's Tracy Smith going to the mound. So the Wolverines are going to bring in one of their relievers. And they gave Cam Hart only one batter, and that's one of the other differences we were mentioning between the MLB and college baseball. MLB, a pitcher has to at least face 3 batters. In college, they can come in just to face 1 batter, and that's kind of why the college games might last a little longer than the MLB games sometimes.
Right, and I mean, there, obviously, the reason that they made the rule change in professional baseball was for pace-of-play purposes, preventing especially those lefty specialists with who come in with the intention of facing 1 batter. I don't think that was the intention at all there. It was just his command was so bad. 4 pitches, and none of them were close at all. So Noah Renard, the right-handed senior, will make a rather impromptu appearance, coming in with a 1.5 ERA in 12 innings pitched. And this is definitely not someone that Tracy Smith had intended to use. As you mentioned, he was trying to get by only using the 3 pitchers, but just not able to do it.
Yeah, really, if you're Tracy Smith, you must be really pissed off right now that you have to use your top relief pitcher and no Renard. Renard came in on Saturday against Texas Tech and threw 4 innings in long relief of Chase Allen. And in a game where you're losing 3-0 here in the 9th inning, when you have, as I just said, 4 games coming up, including a doubleheader, you probably are going to need to use Noah Renard at some point over the weekend. So using him here in this position, luckily it should only be for 1 inning if you're Michigan, but nonetheless, definitely, as you just said, not a player you want to be using in this position, down 3-0 already in the top of the 9th inning for your top relief pitcher who had 4 appearances, thrown 12 innings as a 1.5 ERA.
Yeah, absolutely not. Especially in a game that, I mean, it's a 3-run game, but it just feels like the Wolverines are out of it with how inept their offense has been all season, and especially these past few games. And so now, in a game that feels like it's over, to have to use one of your best relievers just does not feel like a good move at all here in the 9th inning. Yet Tracy Smith ultimately left with no choice with the command issues that Cam Hart had. Still surprised they didn't at least give him another batter to try to figure it out, but that was the decision Smith made. So we are back as Jelenik will step in and take the first pitch for a ball from Renard, throwing a breaking ball there, 74 miles per hour. Count is 1-0. Green on first as he walked off of Hart. 1-0 pitch, misses down and away. So they bring in a new pitcher, and the count quickly to 2-0 here. Oakland up 3-0, top of the 9th. They have a runner on first. Their second baseman, Peter Jelenik, is up and takes another pitch in the dirt for a ball, and the count is 3-0. So between 2 Wolverines relievers, they have combined to throw 7 balls here to start the top of the 9th inning. 3-0, and misses well inside again, and another 4-pitch walk. There's no one up in the Wolverines bullpen, so they're going to have to let Renard try to work through these struggles after Hart got the quick leash. But back-to-back walks, and the Grizzlies, after having 12 straight batters retired, have men on first and second with no one out.
And if you're Renard, you really want to generate weak contact on the ground. Malmanger, as he actually is going to look to bunt.
And he will pull the bat back, and the ball gets by the catcher, and both runners are going to advance.
Went right through Sojus' legs, and as I was just going to say, the Wolverines were at least going to hopefully get 1 out, maybe even 2 with Malmanger bunting, as Vander Mortal already crashed all the way in. Now, Malmanger can choose if he wants to still squeeze, or he can swing with runners on second and third and no out here in the 9th inning, and it's just getting from bad to worse here for the Wolverines. They're just trying to get out of this game as they're probably setting their sights forward.
1-0 pitch, he will bunt, it'll go foul. I believe he bunted it off of himself in the batter's box at the count 1-1. So a little safety squeeze there.
And really interesting decision there by Malmanger to still safety squeeze, especially with runners on second and third. He does have 2 infield hits, so he's actually proven a little bit of speed given his size. Nonetheless, we'll see what he does here with the 1-1 count.
1-1 count. Now he does not bunt. Check swings, but doesn't swing. Pitch misses outside, so the count 2-1. Wolverines, of course, forced to play the infield in here. Down 3-0 in the 9th inning. Runners on second and third, no one out. So there's a pretty large gap up the middle. If he can place the ball there, that's probably 2 runs and really puts this game away. 2-1, big swing, trying to drive the ball, swings through it. as that was a breaking ball, I believe, that he was just a little too antsy on. Count now evens up at 2-2.
A nice breaking ball there by Renard. Let's see if we can throw another one here to get Mallmanger out.
Here comes the pitch. Grounder to the third baseman who freezes the runner, throws across to first, and a big first out as neither runner is able to advance.
Yeah, Dylan Stanton, who had come in for Brandon Lawrence, really nice defensive play there. Picked the ball really well. Looked at the third base, looked at the player on the third base, making sure he didn't run home, and he was able to get the first out. So, Noah Renard essentially got the same thing as he would have gotten with a strikeout, and still the Wolverines haven't given up a run here with second and third with one out in the top of the ninth.
So Drew Collins will step in, and he'll hit a grounder through the right side for a base hit. It'll be one run, and the second runner will be held. So that is an RBI single from Collins on a grounder to the right side that just got in between the first and second baseman. That will score Thomas Green. Peter Jelenik is held up at third, and it is now 4-0 Oakland with one out in the top of the ninth. That'll be Collins' second RBI of the game, as he had that RBI triple back in the second inning.
Yeah, this is a Drew Collins game. He came in batting .077, and with the RBI triple scoring on the subsequent error, and now with a single, another RBI there too. Drew Collins is really taking control of this game, and coming into the game with only one hit on the season, improving to 3 hits, is just something. If you're Michigan, like how do you let that happen? And if you're Oakland, Drew Collins must be feeling really good about himself right now.
So the catcher, Brandon Heidel, shows bunt, takes the first pitch for a strike. Runner from first goes, swing and a miss. They're going to do a delayed steal of home. Here comes the throw home, and they got him at the plate.
Great play there by Cody Jeffress, the shortstop, cutting the ball off immediately from Gabe Sotris. He read it all the way. We played this in high school all the time, the first and third play situation. They decided to let the ball go through all the way to second base. Jeffress knows his arm, and he went right back to Sotris. Sotris had the easy tag at home plate, and the Wolverines have a quick 2 outs.
So here comes the pitch, swing and a miss in the dirt, and the batter will be tagged as Sotris applies the tag to Heidel, and that'll retire the side. So it will be a run on 1 hit. No errors and 1 left on for the Grizzlies. They are up 4-0 at the middle of the ninth. But really a big swing there on that delayed steal of home. And as you mentioned, great play by Jeffress. Wolverines, of course, have to know this is potentially coming, and they executed to perfection. Cut off the throw, ignore the runner going to second, make that throw home. Throw was good, and beat him by a good amount. Nonetheless, now the Wolverines, they have one chance. They're down 4-0. They need runs, and they need runs fast.
Yeah, Wolverines have essentially 3 outs to get this game back in order. They need to score 4 runs at least to keep this game going. I will keep all of you in mind, even if this game does end. Zach and I will still be here until 6 p.m. We're over FM airwaves, so we'll be here. We urge you all to stick around as Zach and I are going to talk about just sports going on around in the world. Nonetheless, we still have a baseball game to finish. And Michigan needs to score 4 here as they have their 3, 4, and 5 hitters.
For those of you who are listening on FM, we'll be on air until 6, and that'll be immediately followed up by the Daily Sports Report. For those of you listening on YouTube, you can either, if you're in the Ann Arbor area in southeast Michigan, tune into 88.3 FM. If you're anywhere else, you can go onto the WCBN FM website and stream it live. So be sure not to miss the latest sports news. We'll get you started after this game. So Wolverines first have one more chance to maybe put something together on offense.
I stand corrected. Michigan has its 2, 3, and 4 hitters coming up. Tito Flores, Ted Burton, and right now Gabe Sotris. A beautiful day here in Ann Arbor. It's 42 degrees and sunny. Zach and I are even in our T-shirts right now in the press box. The sun has been beaming down on us all game long. It's been a little a little too sunny for my eyes, but it's been really nice to sit in, and it's been very comfortable to sit in. And I know there's a lot of fans out today that look pretty comfortable as well.
So it'll be another pitching change for the Golden Grizzlies, as it'll be Decker who will come into the game. Brandon Decker steps in as their new pitcher. The first pitch will come. It'll be a fastball at 88 miles per hour, clipping the outside corner for a called strike. Decker enters with a 4.91 ERA in 11 innings pitched. 1-1 on the season. Comes the 0-1, and that'll be in the dirt. Taken for a ball, 1-1. Tito Flores 0 for 3 on the game. Fly out and a pair of ground outs. Leads off the bottom of the ninth, 1-1 pitch. And a fly ball out to left, pretty deep, and it is a home run. Goes over the wall, and Tito Flores goes yard for his first home run of the year.
And that is exactly what the Michigan Wolverines have been looking for all game long. They hadn't even had a base runner go to second base. Tito Flores 0 for 3 on the day before that home run. He'd been 0 for 8 in his last 8 at-bats. And finally, Tito Flores gets that ball, finds the barrel of the bat, and hits it over the left field wall for his first home run of the season. And that definitely has to feel good for Tito.
And now Burton will hit a ground ball pulled foul down to third base. That'll make the count 0-1. Burton 0 for 3 with 1 strikeout. And you wish that didn't happen in the 9th inning. We wish it happened earlier, but at least it's something as Burton will foul that back. The count is now 0-2.
You're completely right. It might be a little too much too late. We'll have to see. Luckily for Michigan, it was the leadoff batter, so Michigan essentially gets a run without having to give up any outs here with Ted Burton, who's just as capable of hitting a home run as Tito Flores is.
0-2 pitch, and that fly ball will go to right field, and it will be foul out of play. Difficult to see from here going right into the sun, but the count remains 0-2. We've seen the sun shift it. At the start of the game, it was in straightaway center field. Now it's more out by the right field foul pole as the count is 0-2, and he'll yank a fastball well outside, hitting 89 miles per hour, so moderate velocity here from Decker. Count is now 1-2. Flores hit a home run to lead off the bottom of the ninth, make it 4-1. 1-2 pitch. And swing and a miss from Burton. He goes down on strikes for the second time today and has an 0 for 4 day.
So Michigan now down to 2 outs until this game is over. Still trailing 4-1. Gabe Sotris, who was Michigan's best hitter going into the weekend in Houston, really struggled recently, but he is capable of hitting home runs. He has 2 of them this season.
First pitch taken down and away for a ball. Of course, at this point, down 3, you really need base runners more than you need homers. So the count is 1-0, and he'll take a fastball in the strike zone. That'll even up the count at 1-1. Sotris 0 for 2 with a walk this afternoon. Count is 1-1, and he hits a chopper foul toward the left side. Makes the count 1-2. 1 out, bottom of the ninth. Wolverines down 4-1 as their offensive struggles have continued, but they finally got on the board courtesy of Tito Flores. 1-2 pitch, fastball away. Taken, and the count was even now at 2-2. 2-2 count. Decker will deal, and chopper goes foul toward the Wolverines' dugout on the third base side. Keeps the count even. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Sotre still hitting .324 on the season. As here comes the pitch, and he'll foul that back toward the right side. But as you've mentioned, it feels like all the Wolverines' best hitters have been struggling recently.
And that's because they have. Unfortunately, it's just not been going well for these Wolverines hitters. And Gabe Sotris is the most recent example of that.
And he'll hit a foul pop-up that's going to go out of play on the right side. So Sotris fighting off some pitches here. Count is 2-2. And of course, at this point, there's no moral victories from a long at bat. He's just got to find a way to get on. Still a 2-2 count. Here comes the pitch. And called third strike. Looked like it was right down the middle. And just froze Sotris.
Yeah, that ball bent in there from a curveball's perspective. It was 83 miles an hour. Really froze Sotris there, and Michigan's really struggled on breaking balls today. Can't really find any contact with that, and they've really not even swung at the breaking balls. They've really just frozen every time they face a curveball.
So Casey Buckley will pinch hit now as the pitcher spot had come up. He'll be the 5th player to go into that number 5 spot, and he is the final hope for the Wolverines. 2 outs, no one on. He'll take the first pitch upstairs for a ball. Left-handed hitting catcher will step in looking to get on and extend this game for Michigan. 1-0, and that pitch will fastball on the inside corner for a called strike. Count is now 1-1. Buckley hitting 167 on the year. He only has 6 at-bats, 1 hit. He also has 3 strikeouts. 1-1 pitch. Fastball gets the outside corner for a called strike, and Michigan is now down to its final strike as the count moves to 1-2. 1-2 pitch. Here it comes. Fastball just upstairs as Heidel held on to that for a long time, thinking for sure it was going to be called a strike, but it was not. Count is even at 2-2, and Buckley extends the game at least for another pitch. Here comes the 2-2, and called third strike on a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, and the game is over as the Wolverines drop it 4-1. As Oakland finishes with 4 runs on 7 hits and no errors, Wolverines 1 run, 3 hits, and 1 error. Wolverines fall to 4-8 as they now get set to head to the Mike Sanson Classic in Kennesaw, Georgia, starting with the game at noon on Friday against UAB. They also will at 5 p.m. Friday play Kennesaw State, so they have 2 games Friday. They play 2 more throughout the weekend. Wolverines now fall to 4-8 in what's just been a really rough start to the year. 6 straight loss, and this one not to a ranked opponent like their previous 4 were. Oakland improves to 3-8 as they've had their own struggles to begin this year. And just as you mentioned, you were in Houston and saw the offensive struggles. They're still around.
They're still around all right, and as you said, Tito Flores hit that home run in the 9th inning, just a little too much too late, still being 0-3 on the day in the 2-hole. Your offense can't be generated if your 2, 3, and 4 hitters are consistently getting out. Any momentum Michigan would get, they did have 3 total hits on the day before the Tito Flores home run. 2 hits on the day, but not being able to even move that base runner into scoring position really hurts your team. In Houston, Texas, we saw the exact same thing. Michigan got shut out in 2 of those 3 games. The one game they didn't get shut out when they faced Texas Tech, when they finally scored a run, they were down 6-0. They did actually score on back-to-back 2-out hits by Ted Burton and Tito Flores, but in the same exact position, when you are down by so many runs and you build a deficit like that they face in all these different games, it's so hard to come back. Against TCU, they were down 1-0 going into the 7th inning. Michigan, if they had scored a single run in that game, maybe the outcome would have been different. And for 7 innings, Connor Halloran really pitched a very solid game. But eventually something bulges, something breaks. Connor Halloran, the starter, can only go so long before he gets fatigued, he gets tired. And when your offense is not giving you any run support, especially in that position as a pitcher, you start really losing confidence in your team, and then things really start going wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, as we've been talking about, we've seen issues on both sides, but it just puts so much pressure on the pitchers. And the pitching was not bad here today. I mean, we saw little early struggles from Kurt Barr, but he managed to get through 4 1/3 innings, allowing just 3 runs, 2 earned. But we saw Cam Hart ultimately was responsible for a run in the 9th inning. But the offense really seems to be the big problem spot this team has. Now, as we had talked about, this team is just there's really kind of very little cohesion because of the coaching change. We've just seen so much inconsistency with the dynamics of this team that it's just tough to really find the chemistry. It's just a matter of how far can you go before, like how long is it going to take before they can figure it out?
Well, if you look at this lineup, part of it might be a change in the lineup, right? Cody Jeffress is the leadoff man right now, and he's came into the game batting 171. I don't believe he got a hit today, so I'm assuming that batting average is now way down to the 150s. Your leadoff batter is batting 150. Tito Flores in the 2-hole is batting 160. Ted Burton in the 3-hole is batting at like 290. Gabe Sotris is now batting 320, but that average was at 440 4 games ago, so it's a little of a misnomer seeing a 320 batting average. It actually has been a lot worse as of recent. Joey Longo batted 5th today, but then he quickly got subbed out. Velasquez is now in the 0.50 range, so he's literally hitting one hit over 20 at-bats, which is just not feasible by any means. Van Memorial 2 is now in like the 300s. Mitch Voigt is in like the 160s, and Greg Pace Jr. is in like the 150s. So you might need to change up this lineup. I don't know how you would exactly do it. Greg Pace Jr. has the speed. Maybe you put him first and you start trying to bunt for hits, seeing if that would work. Maybe you move Ted Burton into the 2-hole. You put Sotris in the 3-hole. You put Flores in the 4-hole. Put Jeffress 5. Maybe then you put Van Memorial 6, Velasquez 7, and Longo 8, and Voigt 9. But that's just one example of that. Currently, this has been the exact same lineup Michigan has used the last 4 games. Again, they did not use Jake Marty today because Jake Marty got hurt against Texas Tech. Marty's actually batting 330 right now. He's actually one of the best batters on this team. So if he can get implemented back into the game, then you take out Joey Longo, and that's a really big switch from a batting standpoint. But you need to figure something out. Last year, this team had hitter after hitter. You're still missing Jimmy Obertop. If he finally recovers maybe halfway through the season, then you get another batter in place where you can play both Sotris and Obertop, one at catcher, one at DH. So you have options to work with, but currently this team is really struggling to find which options are working because of the way the lineup is set right now.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of kind of what options do they have to go to. But then again, as you mentioned, it's like at some point you just got to try something, because we just kind of know continuing to put out the same lineup and expecting results to improve almost meets the definition of insanity. And as we saw here, nothing changed, only scoring 1 run against an Oakland pitching staff that came into the day with an ERA north of 9.
This was a game Michigan was able to win, and they should have won. And you're seeing in college baseball, giving up 4 runs is actually not a lot because college baseball teams are primarily offensively oriented. Every college team also has only a certain amount of pitchers, right? So a team like Michigan right now has 2 solid starters, and behind them, they've been kind of having to experiment. They're using Jacob Denner as their 3rd starter right now, but he's actually been a relief pitcher for this team for the last 2 years. We saw Noah Renard come into the last inning of the game. He can be a long reliever. We saw the 3rd baseman come and pitch, and we saw another infielder come and pitch. So pitching is very fluid in college baseball, so you will see runs. The problem for Michigan is that they're not scoring other runs. So you give up 4 runs. Last season, giving up 4 runs for Michigan would end up being a win for this team because they were able to score a lot of runs. Michigan averaged 11 runs per game last season offensively, which is just a crazy stat. And to think that they wouldn't have made the NCAA tournament unless they had won the Big Ten tournament, which they did, is the only reason they were in that position in the first place. So this team is used to having a strong offense, and there have been a lot of changes this year. Number one, of course, with Bakich leaving, going to Clemson, taking a lot of players with him. New coach Tracy Smith coming in, and I don't blame Tracy Smith. He's coming in with a really difficult situation where none of these players are his own players, and he inherited a program, honestly, late in the cycle where he had very little to do with how this team was. He got hired after the transfer portal even, closed. So he's just working with this team that he was given. but something needs to happen. With the team he has, he needs to change the lineup. Maybe he needs to experiment with other players. As I mentioned, Jonathan Kim came in at the end in center field. Maybe he needs to get a start every now and then. Maybe Jack Van Remortel needs to take a seat from first base, and if Jake Marty gets better, you play him. We saw Dylan Stanton come in at third base, and he drew a walk because Brandon Lawrence obviously hasn't been really working offensively either. So something needs to change, and honestly, with these next 8 games they have before they start Big Ten play, this is the time to experiment before you really get into the depths of your real season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, it's tough because you kind of have to think with a new coach coming in, you're kind of looking more deep success is probably more not coming in his first season. You're probably looking more several years ahead, but you still want to see some level of success with a team that managed to win the Big Ten tournament last year, and they've just fallen off a cliff so fast that they need to somehow kind of climb back up a little. And it almost seems like at this point it's just trying things until they work, because at this point Tracy Smith doesn't know what's going to work.
Exactly, and you mentioned last year's team winning the Big Ten tournament. They honestly should have beaten Louisville also in the NCAA tournament too. Unfortunately for them, they got kind of cheated out in the 9th inning, getting a call not going their way. But if you look at their entire starting lineup, I can point out Tito Flores and Ted Burton are the only 2 starters from last year's team that are starting now. Van Remortel was here. He was not starting. Joey Velasquez was a spot starter at times in right field, but he was not a consistent starter. You have Mitch Voigt and Greg Pace Jr., who are both freshmen. You have Sotris and Jeffress, who are both transfers. And Joe Longo was not playing really any meaningful baseball last year either. So this team is just different. Kurt Barr is a freshman who started today's game, and Mitch Voigt, who came in after him, is also a freshman. So just this whole team is completely different. And unfortunately for them, all the success they had last year, they just really couldn't build off of because of the coaching change. Maybe if Bakich was still here, not necessarily that he would be coaching the team differently, but those recruits that he brought in, the transfers he would have brought in, the players that left with him might have still been here. All that could have been different. But because of the way things had turned out with Bakich leaving for Clemson, and good for him in leaving too for a better program with more money, more resources, Michigan is kind of back at square one this season, and that's kind of how it's been expected to be, and kind of the expectation fans need to have for this entire season as well.
Yeah, and it feels like that's just kind of how college sports work, with coaches being free to leave pretty much whenever they want, as long as they can go to a school that'll pay the buyout. It does result in this situation. We see it in all college sports, not just baseball, that you basically have to totally reconstruct the team. And so, as you mentioned, the expectation that they would build on last year's success, have a better regular season this year, really just wasn't that reasonable with what happened with the coaching change. Still, you'd hope to see something better than what we've seen so far with this team at 4-8.
Of course. So this baseball team now, they're currently 4. There's 4-8 right now. They have a doubleheader on Friday, one against UAB. Are they both against UAB?
UAB and Kennesaw
State. And Kennesaw
State.
State are both on Friday, and then they play another game against each of those teams Saturday and Sunday. Then they come and they play Xavier next week, if I'm correct.
On the road next Wednesday.
On the road against Xavier, and they got pummeled by Xavier last year. Xavier is not a team to mess with. This Michigan team, after losing to Oakland, honestly, any team is capable of being this Michigan team right now. So after you play Xavier, you come back here and you play Bradley next weekend for their first real home series. So as we said, they're playing teams that they can test these things out against. But number one, Tracy Smith needs to be capable of testing them out, and number two, will they work or will they not work? We'll just have to wait and see. So let's move on a little bit maybe. Let's move to Michigan basketball if you'll stay with me here. All of you are still willing, please stay with us. We'll be on for another 23 minutes until we have the Daily Sports Report at 6 p.m. But we're going to do our own little version of the Daily Sports Report right now. So, Zach, Michigan men's basketball going to Indianapolis. They face Rutgers tomorrow in the first round of the Big Ten basketball tournament. What are expectations for this basketball team?
Well, the problem is it feels like Rutgers is just on a tailspin. I was covering the game at Rutgers, and that team just couldn't score, gave Michigan a pretty comfortable win. Michigan, on the other hand, they just can't close games. And it's been something that's kind of plagued Juwan Howard his entire career coaching at Michigan, yet we saw even against Wisconsin, they just needed a prayer from Hunter Dickinson, and they managed to get it. And then at Illinois, they had 2 chances to have that final possession. They couldn't score, and they were up 7 in overtime with a minute and a half left and blew it. And then at Indiana, again, they had the final possession in regulation. They had the chance in overtime. Indiana missed several free throws to give them a chance, and they just could not. It's like they had no play drawn up almost. So they just need to be able to. It's great if they're going to be able to pull away some games and win easily, but they got to be able to finish games. Now, as far as tournament status goes, Michigan, I think, at a minimum has to beat Rutgers and Purdue, maybe more than that. Rutgers, you kind of see different things from the projections because they've just totally spiraled out of control. That loss at Minnesota was just awful, yet their net seems to be high enough that some bracketologists still have them in a pretty comfortable spot. Now, they do have 4 quad 3 losses, which, of course, hurts them. You look at Michigan, they only have 2 losses that are not quad 1. Of course, the Central Michigan loss, that was just awful.
We said when the loss happened in Central Michigan, we said that loss is going to haunt them all the way to the tournament time, and it really is. It might not be as big of a deal now just because the position that they're in and that they still need a win to get in, and if they can beat enough good teams, obviously, then you'll probably still get into the tournament. But you're right, the Central Michigan loss, without that on your resume honestly looks a lot better, where you're right, just having quad 1 losses, you still need to beat quad 1 teams, but that group of teams only being your losses, obviously there have been teams that have made it in for less.
Right. Michigan's only other non-quad 1 loss was a quad 2 loss to Arizona State and Brooklyn. Now, they only have 3 quad 1 wins, so they're really a team that for the most part has beaten who they're supposed to beat, but then not won the difficult games.
Of course. Well, I completely agree with you. I think Michigan wins when 2 things happen. This is what I found. Michigan wins when Dickinson's good, obviously. That's kind of a given. Dickinson has struggled at times making the shots he needs to make. He does get double-teamed a lot, but he will consistently miss layups at times. He misses turnaround jumpers at times. And when he misses free throws, too, that really causes me pain because he has so many scoring opportunities at his size. And when he misses shots that he's supposed to make in crucial time, you're really putting the pressure on your team. And Michigan also wins when Joey Baker is good. It's not Jett Howard. It's not Kobe Buffkin because those guys are your consistent scorers. You know Buffkin's going to get his points. Jett Howard's going to make his threes. Joey Baker, I've found, has been that guy where if he's making threes, the team is crazy good. When he's missing threes, the team can't make anything because he takes probably 5 threes a game, and he'll either go like 3 or 4 for 5, or he'll miss all of them. And those points, those like 15 points up for grabs on Joey Baker threes is honestly the deciding factor. Michigan has 7 or 8 of their losses are within 5 points. Most recently to Indiana, losing by 4 in overtime. So making 1 or 2 more threes than you miss could really be the difference in winning those games. And I found when Joey Baker makes them, the team is good, and when he misses, the team really can't do anything.
Yeah, and it's true what you mentioned. Looking at a couple aspects of this, one, I feel like the team is a little less dependent on Hunter Dickinson than they were last year. He's still obviously a big part of the team, but it feels like you can kind of pick more of those guys. And as you mentioned, Joey Baker being one of those hit or miss guys that will really make or break the team. And then also the fact so many of their losses are so close. You really look at 2 blowout losses, Arizona State and the game at Penn State. Now, you look, there are some losses that, yes, the score was close. It didn't really feel like a game. Games like the Purdue loss or North Carolina or the game at Maryland, where the other team just kind of controlled the game. But then you do have all these games. Virginia, that was a game they were 1 stop away from winning. Couldn't finish it off. Central Michigan, a team they have to beat, and also a game they led most of the game. Both Indiana games were games they had chances to win. They controlled the game at home, and they couldn't score in over 5 minutes at the end. Illinois up 7 in overtime. Couldn't finish the job. So they've just had so many rough losses where it is that one play. Their wins, for the most part, have not been that way. The only ones I think you can point to are Ohio beating them in overtime, which honestly it never should have come close to that.
I knew at the beginning that I was on that game for WCBN and watching that game and covering that game. You knew it was going to be a really long season, where the second game of the season, taking Ohio University, not Ohio State, Ohio University to overtime, really was concerning for the team. But they pulled out a win there. But you're completely right. Please keep going.
Right. And then you look at the Michigan State game, the home game, which was very interesting because Michigan State honestly controlled that entire game, and then we scored the final 12 points to win. Also, going back to the game at Michigan State, that was another one where the game was close in score, yet Michigan just couldn't make any shots, and so it never felt like they had a chance of winning. And then the Wisconsin game, of course, they were up, double digits in the second half. No lead is ever comfortable with Michigan. But then somehow managed to get off that Hunter Dickinson 3. But most of their wins are not games that they're performing late game magic. A lot of their losses are games where their opponents performing late game magic.
Completely, you're completely right. When Michigan beat Rutgers, they beat them pretty handedly, and that was because they control from the tip, and they really take control of that game, and that's what I'm expecting to see out of this team as they face Rutgers. You will know pretty early on in the contest what kind of Michigan team you're going to get. If you're going to get a team that's going to go up by 10 within the first media timeout or even the second media timeout, give them a little bit more time. Say by the under 12 media timeout, if Michigan's up by 7 to 10 points, you will know, okay, they're controlling this game pretty well. If they're losing or they're in a really tight battle, you're going to know you're going to be really in for a treat. And the way this team has just gone historically this season, unfortunately, if you're a Michigan fan, especially for our position, Michigan in tight games has not really ended up in Michigan's favor. And that's really concerning going into the Big Ten tournament when you're going to need to win every single game you play.
Yeah, I mean, worth noting, the game at Rutgers, Rutgers had gone up 13-3 early, but then Michigan had 9-0 run to get it right back. It was close in the first half, and then it felt like the second half they really pulled away. That what I find with a lot of the games is often the first half is close, and then the second half isn't. The game at Northwestern, I was also at that one, it was the same kind of thing. I think we were up 1 at halftime, and then just blew them out in the second half. The game, you look at the other side, the game at Wisconsin, lost by 4, but up 1 at halftime, and then Wisconsin really controlled that second half. Michigan almost clawed their way back, just not able to do it. So I agree that sometimes you get the feel early on, but I've noticed sometimes it almost feels like the first half can go neck and neck, and then someone takes control in the second half. Now, we know Michigan going up by like 12 or something is not taking control because they can blow that in a few minutes.
Completely. That's a really good point you're making. I mean, this Michigan team is really, I mean, it's very easy to speculate on both sides, right? Like, again, they're facing a team that they've shown they compete pretty handily before, but they've also shown that they lose to teams that they should be beating pretty handily before. But you're right. Most of the games Michigan has played where they're supposed to win, they've won. And the weird thing is, the position is that Michigan's currently an 8 seed in the Big Ten tournament, and if they had won against Indiana, they'd be a 2 seed. So, like, the amount of fluidity and the sporadicness of the Big Ten this season is so crazy that one game decides a 6 positional difference in the Big Ten tournament. And unfortunately for Michigan, they drew the worst hand. Now, even if they do beat Rutgers, having to play Purdue after the fact, obviously the front runner of the Big Ten and by a large margin too, it's just looking a lot less likely this team is going to be as good as the teams we've seen in the past. But I said the same thing last season, and Michigan turned around and won 3 games in the NCAA tournament and took it to the Sweet 16. So I could be wrong again.
Well, I will say, it's interesting because they, of course, have a tough schedule here. Yet I almost think because they're playing from behind in terms of tournament standing, it might be for the best. Had they won either the Indiana or Illinois game, wouldn't matter. They'd be a 2 seed. They still probably wouldn't be a tournament lock. Now, they go in as an 8 seed. Rutgers is a quad 1 game. So that's a potential quad 1 win. Now, that won't be enough on its own. But then they play Purdue. And yes, it's a game they probably lose. But when you need resume boosters, you basically need games you'll probably lose, and then you need to win them. Had Rutgers beaten Northwestern, they would have been a 5 seed. Yet their first game would have been either Ohio State or Wisconsin. That's doing nothing. That's a game they should win, yet it's doing nothing to their resume. Then I think they would go to Iowa, good, but not as good as Purdue. So I think the tough matchups are the games they need. And yes, if they lose them, they're done. But without them, they don't even have that chance without winning the Big Ten tournament.
And that's a good point. And I don't often like to do this, but looking back at past seasons of how Michigan has played, Michigan has actually done really well with their backs against the wall, especially under Juwan Howard. Juwan has really built this team where they peak at the right time. And we were seeing Michigan peaking at the right time, and then recently it's been a little shaky, so I'm not exactly sure how this team's going to fare in the Big Ten tournament, but you're completely right. When Michigan's backs were against the wall and they needed to beat the teams they really, really need to beat, and if they did beat them, they would be way better off for it. They somehow squeaked out a win, and against a Purdue team, you're completely right. If you beat Rutgers and Purdue, some might say that's already enough to get into the to get into the NCAA tournament, because honestly, a lot of the teams you're competing against are those teams. Rutgers is on the bubble right now. Wisconsin's on the bubble right now. Other Big Ten teams like Northwestern's probably a lock, but if they lose in the first round, maybe they're on the bubble too. Iowa, Illinois, all those teams are on the bubble. So if Michigan can just make it a little further than those other teams, maybe that's enough to kind of push them into that last 4 position. Even if it's a playing game, you're in and you have a chance to kind of compete for the NCAA championship.
Well, I'm looking at the way I see it is my first question is if Michigan beats Rutgers, does that push Michigan ahead of Rutgers? I would think it should, yet what I've also seen is I think the committee values the regular season more than the conference tournament for one, and I also don't think they care about head-to-head that much. So even with those 2 wins, Rutgers, I think you look at 5 different projections and you're going to see 5 different things. They're a hard team to figure out. I mean, they were just in such good position, and then they've just completely crashed down the stretch. They had the Nebraska home loss. They had the loss at Minnesota, the loss to Michigan, home loss to Northwestern. They just can't score right now. So I think that's one thing. It looks like, from what I've seen, I think the Big Ten locks are Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Iowa, Michigan State, Indiana, Maryland. I think they're all in. Maybe I missed one. Penn State, it seems, is probably going to be in. Wisconsin's another interesting one because their net is in the 70s, I believe. Their record isn't that good, yet they seem to be in a pretty good position. But if they lose to Ohio State
tonight, yeah, they play them tonight too.
Right. Now, it's worth noting that will be a quad 2 game because Ohio State's net ranking is a lot higher than you would think for a team with a losing record. But I think if Wisconsin loses that, they're out. Just even though it's quad 2, the optics are still bad. And so I think that's a game they must win in order to have a chance. So it really is a matter of kind of the Big Ten bubble. I think one of the big things, probably 9 teams make it in the Big Ten. Maybe a 10th gets in. I don't think it's going to be less than 9. So I think one of the big questions is Michigan beating Rutgers. Where does that put Rutgers? Because that has a direct impact on where Michigan ends up.
Completely. And it's so weird to position themselves, to even think about Michigan having a chance at the NCAA tournament. Again, a game and a half, even 2 games ago, Michigan was actually almost a lock in the Big Ten tournament. All they had to do was win one of the last 2 games, people were saying, and they pretty much be in, beating Indiana as one of that potential situation. And they also lost to, remind me, before Indiana. Illinois, losing Illinois too. But they lose those games. And as you said, both in very close manner. Michigan actually was leading against Indiana late in the game and could not figure out a way to have 2 offensive opportunities, could not score in that position. You just hate to put themselves in that exact same position, or I'm personally worried that they're going to be in a very similar position, either against a Rutgers team, a Purdue team, or even later on in the tournament. And especially if they do make it to the tournament, each point matters in that tournament. Like, the pressure is on, and they've proven that they've actually folded under pressure more times than they've been able to succeed. So it's really concerning for what they're going to do going forward. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to Michigan hockey. Michigan just beat Wisconsin last weekend of the Big Ten tournament. They move on in the Big Ten tournament. Can you describe to me what their chances are like and kind of where they are in the NCAA tournament seeding for the Frozen Four possibility?
Well, from what I've read, they are definitely getting into the NCAA tournament. It sounds like they'll probably be a 1 seed. Now, they play Ohio State this weekend, which is interesting because they've struggled with Ohio State this season. But last year, they lost all 4 regular season games to Notre Dame, and then in the semifinals, beat Notre Dame in the Big Ten tournament. So they're in a good position as far as getting into the tournament, but their performance these last 3 weeks really has been concerning. The Ohio State games, Notre Dame games, just couldn't figure out a way to win them. 3 of the 4 had been either in shootouts or overtime, and the other one was in 50-degree weather in Cleveland. But then, even Wisconsin, those games were closer than they should have been against the Big Ten's clear bottom feeder. And so, we'll see how they end up looking against Ohio State. Are they able to get back to the team that had won 7 straight games? Because that's the type of team they need to be in the regionals to make it to the Frozen Four, and then trying to win in the Frozen Four, which they weren't able to do last year.
Completely right. I mean, they beat Wisconsin. They're supposed to beat Wisconsin, but I believe Michigan is 1-5 against Ohio State this season. Maybe 2-5 or
1-3.
1-3. Sorry, the potential to be 1-5. So 1-3 against Ohio State. I believe it's a one and done against Ohio State too.
This is a single game.
So it's a single game, and if they do win, they go to the Big Ten championship a week from Saturday. So they just have to win one more game to get that Big Ten championship, and they are still fighting for that number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, which would be huge for Michigan's chances. Michigan obviously had the stellar team they had last season with Owen Power and company. This season, a lot of questions coming in, especially with the new coach, with Brandon Naruto. But so far, Michigan's really been performing well as of late, and especially in a very feisty Big Ten, they've been able to fend off the competition and get themselves into a pretty good position here playing Ohio State, and they get that home game against Ohio State too, which will be huge too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're in a position now where they're gonna get into the tournament for sure, and they're number 4 in the pairwise rankings, I believe, right now, maybe even number 3. So they're in a good place as far as standing. I think it's more just a matter of how the team is playing, so that they can win once they get there, rather than like the basketball team that needs to win just to get into the tournament before they can even think about making noise there.
Yeah, Michigan hockey really utilizing a lot of freshmen, what Michigan baseball hopes to do eventually at some point, but they've really been fortunate to have Adam Fantilli and Ricker McGroarty at the helm to really control that Michigan team. Eric Portillo, too, in goal, really being solid for this Michigan team. And, you know, with this hockey team, it's weird to say, but they've been honestly probably one of the more consistent sports here at Michigan, aside from probably football in the last 2 years, just producing a lot of really good games. They're consistently winning these games, and they're back in this position where they were last season. And last season, honestly, I felt like this team really could go the distance, getting, stopped just short in the Frozen Four. Michigan has another opportunity this year, and really in college hockey, it's been all over the place. We've been seeing in the rankings every week, just a new team at number 1. Teams are losing to other teams. There really hasn't been that clear consensus team so far, and that can make things really interesting in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and it seems right now that I believe the current number 1 is Minnesota, who likely, if Michigan can beat Ohio State, they'll be headed to Minnesota next weekend. So but then again, Minnesota, it's not like they've been perfect. They did have a loss recently to Wisconsin, but then they helped Michigan out by beating Ohio State twice the final week of the regular season. That helped Michigan get the 2 seed. But as you mentioned, there has been kind of a lot of movement within the top teams. Big Ten also, last year only got Minnesota and Michigan into the tournament. This year you're looking at Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, maybe Michigan State, depending on how things play out. So the Big Ten will be represented well in the regionals.
Of course. Well, I just want to quickly circle back to college basketball for a second. Not Michigan basketball specifically, but there is actually some college basketball news that has just occurred while we've been talking. Jim Boeheim, the head coach of Syracuse, is retiring after this season, after 47 seasons as the head coach of Syracuse. Jim Boeheim will step down from Syracuse. One of their assistant coaches will step up. That'll be Adrian Autry will step in to be the new coach. So we'll have to see what happens with Syracuse after this season. Syracuse just played Wake Forest today in the ACC men's basketball tournament and lost. So just one last stat for you all to keep in mind. But we've just about 1 minute left here before Zach and I sign off. But we urge you all to keep listening either on WCBN FM Ann Arbor on 88.3, or if you're not here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, please keep listening on the app, as we'll have the daily sports report from the studio. Zach and I will not be on that, but we'll have a lot of our colleagues on that talking about sports, primarily football. It's been a lot of football news as of recent. But we just want to thank you all for tuning in today to WCBN Sports here. We had a great baseball game to watch. Unfortunately, not the result Michigan was looking for. Nonetheless, we will look to move on as Michigan goes to Kennesaw, Georgia for this weekend. For Zach Linder, my name is Jake Singer. Stay right there as we are going to put on the daily sports report in just a second.